You got to wait for a gapper.
That is fair down the right field line. Giambi on his way to third.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well, good morning, and a good Monday morning, and what a good Monday morning indeed it is. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to noon Eastern Time. You can find us, of course, on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports, and we continue to ask you, please, to subscribe to the program. If you prefer to join us in podcast form, please do. Just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman and you're dialed in. Well, there's no two ways about it. This was a big-time game, big-time atmosphere, turns into a big-time win. Joe Burrow throws for nearly 290 yards and 2 touchdowns in a thrilling 27-24 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Burrow becomes the first quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes 3 straight times, and he does it, of course, in 1 calendar year. Maybe the player of the game was Samaje Perine. He rushes for 106 yards, gets 21 carries. He had 6 receptions for another 50 yards. Bengals are now 8-4 on the year, still tied atop the AFC North. Maybe the single biggest play of the game, though, Jermaine Pratt. When he strips Travis Kelce of the football, getting the Bengals the football back to take the lead. Bengals have won 8 of their last 10. They are rolling. Elsewhere in the AFC North, it's never pretty, but Baltimore continues to find a way to win. Tyler Huntley capped off a 91-yard drive with a 2-yard touchdown run in the final 28 seconds, and the Ravens overcome an injury to Lamar Jackson to beat Denver 10-9. Now, Jackson left the game with an injured knee in the first quarter. He did not return. All the Ravens would say is he's expected to miss some time. We're not exactly sure what that means. They did say it's not season-ending injury. Ravens are 8-4 and right now still on the tiebreak, of course, over the Bengals. Deshaun Watson made his season debut. And the Browns, against his former team, Houston, win the game despite not scoring an offensive touchdown. Cleveland won at 27-14. Browns scored on a punt return, a fumble return, and an interception return for touchdowns. Watson was very sloppy, not a surprise. His first game in nearly, they said, 700 days in the NFL. He had the 11-game suspension to begin this year, hit on 12 of 22 for 131 yards through a pick in the end zone. Cleveland goes to 5-7. Steelers, by the way, beat Atlanta yesterday, 19-16. Other big games around the league, Philadelphia. Boy, you talk about a team rolling, 11-1. They hammer Tennessee 35-10. Jalen Hurts throws for nearly 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also runs for a touchdown in the Eagles' win. Brock Purdy, ever heard of him? You will now. He took over for an injured Jimmy Garoppolo, leads the 49ers to a win over what was white-hot Miami, 33-17. Garoppolo broke his left foot and is out for the rest of the year. Tua, meanwhile, threw a pair of interceptions, re-injured his ankle. It was already hurt before the game started. He's not expected to miss any time. Minnesota, another team. They just keep on winning. 10-2 on the year after holding off the Jets 27-22. New York had a shot. Mike White threw a pick at the Minnesota 1-yard line to end the game. Another big one in the NFC East ends in a tie. Commanders and the Giants at 2020. Both, however, still very much in the playoff hunt. Now we get to college football. What a weekend. It started Friday night. The University of Southern California taking on Utah in the Pac-12 championship game. And I got to tell you, if you watched it, and I watched it, it was 17-3 SC in the first quarter. And I mean, they are rolling. They look so good, right? In the final three quarters of that game, Utah outscored the Trojans 44-7. And the Trojans are out of the college football playoff. Really, it's the same old for Lincoln Riley. Great offensive coach, put up huge numbers, but their defense stinks every year. Maybe he changes that at USC in the coming years. He never changed it at Oklahoma, and that's why they never won a championship. TCU in what was the game of the weekend lost an incredible Big 12 title game, the number 10 Kansas State, 31-28 in overtime. If you didn't see it, I'm telling you right now, I would give the Heisman to Max Duggan, the TCU quarterback, right now based on guts. His performance at the end of regulation was truly one for the ages, as was his press conference afterwards. It was TCU's first loss of the year, but would it cost him a trip to the college football playoff? More on that in a moment. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Stay undefeated. Conference championships in the SEC and the Big Ten, respectively. So we knew that those two teams were going to be in. But what about number 3? What about number 4? Deservedly, TCU stays at number 3. And once beaten, Ohio State locks in at number 4. So, New Year's Eve, December 31st, you have Michigan v. TCU in Phoenix at 4 o'clock Eastern, and then at 8 o'clock prime time. The game everyone thought we'd see for a title game is a semifinal game. Georgia and Ohio State in Atlanta, and we're going to have more on this later, because this is a joke that Georgia is playing in Atlanta. This is a joke. This isn't like a Final Four thing where you're locked in and all 4 teams go to the Final Four and you decided what that site is 7 years in advance. The committee had a chance to send Georgia out to Phoenix and play truly at a neutral field. And you can say, well, they've earned it. They're the number 1 seed. I wouldn't argue with that. But that's a joke. You and I both know that. And I don't say that as an Ohio State fan. That'd be like putting a dome on the stadium in Cleveland, or putting a dome at Paul Brown Stadium and letting Ohio State play in that game. That would be a joke. You and I both know it. Other local teams headed to bowl games. UC faces Louisville in the Wasabi Bowl. Do you get sushi when you walk in the door at the Wasabi Bowl?
I have no idea.
I would sure hope so.
I would hope so, too. It's played at Fenway Park on December the 17th. The Bearcats have found their new head coach, and in an unbelievable twist of irony, he's been the head coach at Louisville, Scott Satterfield. He's a North Carolina native, went 7-5 this year, 25-24 overall at Louisville. Had an incredible run as head coach at Appalachian State. He replaces, of course, Luke Fickell, who left UC to go to Wisconsin. A press conference will be held at 1 o'clock today to announce Coach Satterfield. Miami of Ohio, good for them. Bowl eligible. They're going to play UAB in the Bahamas Bowl. Now, that's a pretty good trip down there now. Ohio University has played in that bowl game a number of times, and good for them. Speaking of OU, they'll play in the Arizona Bowl in Tucson on December 30th against Wyoming. Kentucky and Iowa, that's a good game. 2 really good defenses, not much on offense. That will be December the 31st. Notre Dame will play South Carolina in the Gator Bowl on December the 30th. Deion Sanders is taking the head coaching job at Colorado. His Jackson State team won the SWAC championship over the weekend. Not only that, he's taken his son with him. His son was a starting quarterback for undefeated Jackson State all year long. Soccer, we know the U.S. men's team was totally dominated by the Netherlands in World Cup play on Saturday, losing 3-1. They're done. In baseball, the Texas Rangers gave Jacob deGrom a 5-year, $180 million deal. deGrom has thrown 220 innings combined over the last 3 years. That's why baseball's falling apart, in my opinion. Good for Jacob deGrom. I mean, when he's healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball, but this is why people go south on baseball. $185 million in a sport with no salary cap. College basketball, UC beats Bryant. Where is Bryant?
They play up in the Northeast. I think they're in New York. I could be wrong, but I know they're in the NEC.
Okay. Well, it's 97-71 yesterday. UC 6-3 on the year. What's that?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Thank you. The Xavier Musketeers, Paul Fritzner.
Yeah.
Big win over West Virginia.
Great.
Some of your haters came out for me on Twitter just because I sent you a text. Just because
that's
I
right.
was rooting for my friend Bob Huggins. And what do they do? Some of them, you should be ashamed of yourselves. I mean, seriously. You break out the hugs with a DUI and, I mean, come on. Come on. There's only a handful of you, but come on. Get a life. The Crosstown Shootout is this Saturday at 3 p. But I tell you, you got to be impressed with the Musketeers.
Yeah.
They've got a nice team.
They do. And I think, a lot of people have been talking about this shootout this year. And I think, the line right now is only 2. It might be 1.5, 2, maybe 3.
You're kidding me.
I'm telling you, I think this shootout might be flying a little under the radar, right? You look at UC hiring a football coach. Xavier's a team competing for a top 3 spot in the Big East. But UC puts up a ton of points, and they shoot the ball well, and that's where Xavier has struggled this year is defending the 3. So I'm not saying that UC is going to win this game for the UC fans listening to this. I've watched almost every minute of UC basketball this year. I've watched every minute of Xavier basketball this year. Xavier's the better team in this game, and I don't think it's close, but this is a game that UC, if they shoot the ball as well as they have against Arizona or Bryant yesterday. I know Bryant and Xavier are 2 different teams, but Arizona's a very good team, and they put up 90-plus points against them. Now, they made 17 threes in that game, but I'm just saying that, if UC gets hot shooting the ball, that's what's going to happen
Okay,
on
but
Saturday.
you have to agree, and we're going to get to the Bengals here in a second, and we'll circle back to the –
But we got plenty of time on that.
We got plenty of time, but, the bottom line is, and you would agree with this, the bottom line is Xavier has a better team.
Yeah.
And even though it is played at UC, this is a game Xavier should win.
Very much should win. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. You're an honest man.
Yes.
All right, fellas. Casey McAllister, good morning.
Good morning.
Are we done with this? It felt like that monologue went on for days.
If you want to add more into it, we can.
I'm the one that wrote it. I get it. But, there's a lot going on. You come back after a weekend. Everybody's jumping on. We've got all the regular suspects coming on here today. Trace Fowler is already on me. He's obviously a big Georgia guy about my comments of playing that game in Atlanta. But let's start with the Bengals. We all agreed that after the Bengals beat Tennessee in what we thought a number of weeks ago was going to be the pivotal game of the year, that they were going to get a couple of wins against lesser competition leading up to the Tennessee game. They go down there, they win the game, they beat the Titans 3 in a row. So they've got their number. Now comes Kansas City. You beat them twice last year. And both times in January, ironically. You played them at the end of the year in the regular season, then beat them, of course, in the AFC Championship game. And now they come to Cincinnati. And I got to tell you, right from the start, that first drive of the game, you could just tell the Bengals had an edge. They've been notorious under Zach Taylor for slow starts. But they had an edge to them and came out there right away. You could sense that, whether they were making something out of the whole Reed situation, not Andy Reid, the defensive back Reed, but they looked like a team that was ready to play.
They sure did.
Yeah, they did. That was a lot of fun to watch. Casey, you, as somebody that takes losses very hard and rides the wins high, how did you feel?
I felt pretty damn good about this game.
Good.
I have a take that I'm going to save till when we win the Super Bowl, of course, that I think you guys are going to love. But I want you to remember this. Bookmark it in the back of your minds. I've got something to share when we win the Super Bowl this year.
We've gone from beating the Chiefs to winning the Super Bowl.
No, just regardless. Just come back to this thought at the end of the season, okay? Anyways, let me continue about this game.
Please do.
P. Ryan needs to be heavily involved even after Mixon comes back. He gave this team a ground and pound edge that we just really haven't had with Mixon. I mean, the dude dribbled another guy, Justin Reed.
You want to put that up?
I'll gladly put
Fire it
that
up, Casey.
I mean, look at this. Boom. I mean, come on. And we're gonna get a different angle here. That's the guy that they were.
Beat it.
He didn't know who he's playing against. That guy right there. He just dribbled him off the ground there. I mean, and this is relatively early in the game. I mean,
well, that's what I mean when I say they came ready to play. They look like from the start that every chance they could, not a cheap shot, but they finished plays through the whistle, an edge about them. And I'm with you on P. Ryan. I mean, I don't know how in the world, and I know Mixon has had an outstanding career. He had an excellent year last year, led the AFC in rushing. I get all that, and he's had a couple of big games, one in particular this year where he scored 5 touchdowns. But there is no way that you can start to take snaps away from P. Ryan. Not right now. Now, if all of a sudden he gets all the carries and all that kind of thing in this upcoming game against Cleveland, doesn't do anything, then look, you got to adapt and move forward. But right now, he gives them, I'm with you, he gives them a look that they have not had for a while.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think the issue is his long speed, right? I've not seen him really, just break away for some long gain, except, the screens that he's had in the past where he has the open field to do so. The dude just consistently gets you 4 or 5 yards every time he runs the ball. Every time he hits the open hole, he's getting 5-6 yards a carry. I mean, regardless, let's move on. We all know about P. Ryan. I'm pretty sure most of us all feel the same way.
But we're going to come back to all these topics because we have a lot of time before we get to Brian Billick.
Right.
So please continue.
Our defense, clutch. I mean, it doesn't matter what game it is. They always manage to give us an opportunity, get us in the right position to win the game. That strip from Pratt was the only turnover in the whole game. It was against Kelce out of all guys, a superstar, and it changed the momentum for the entire game. They were driving down the field, I think, with up 24-20.
Yeah, they had a couple of first downs on that drive already. That would have been another one.
Yeah, and it was 24-20, I believe.
Yep.
And we had just missed that touchdown to Tyler Boyd.
We'll get to all that in a little while.
Yeah. I mean, the dude, Pratt, is on fire. Defensive MVP for this year has to be. I mean, he was on fire for the last 4 weeks. What was crazy is that everyone was all in. Everyone made a play. Sam Hubbard, Hendrickson, Reeder, Pratt, Wilson,
Osai,
Bates, Osai,
the only sack.
Everyone on offense and defense made a play. They stepped up, came out to play, and
Did Joe get sacked?
he got sacked on a at the very end, but it wasn't a.
Oh, that's
true
right.
sack.
That's right.
It was
That's right.
it was-
I forgot about that.
Okay,
He should have
but
thrown it away.
We got to admit this, okay? And look, this is just playing now, and I've said it before 1,000 times. If you've got a crummy team, there's no sense in beating a dead horse. But when you've got a good team, and every good coach or great coach would tell you this, when you've got a good team, Now you have to start finding the little things where you got to get better, right? This pass rush is still non-existent.
No.
Non-existent, okay? It really is. And I'm with you. The defense, and we said this last week with Paul Doherty, I think the Bengals defense every game gives you a chance to win the game. They will make a play to keep you in it. And that can be even like Kansas City's first drive where you hold them to a field goal instead of a touchdown. Red zone touchdowns are such a huge part of this game. The two biggest parts of football, three really, and Brian Billick will address this later. But if you really boil it down and you want to get into statistical breakdowns of teams that win and teams that lose in a game, it will come down to one of three, if not a combination of these three things. Turnovers, by far number one. That's the number one statistical area where the team that turns it over more, their chances of winning drop significantly. That's number one. Number two, big plays. And we saw that even at the college game, say the Ohio State-Michigan game. You have 5 big plays in the game. The rest of the game was all close. But the big plays, difference in the game. The third thing is red zone conversion for touchdowns. The Bengals are the best in the NFL, number one in the NFL, in red zone percentage of touchdowns. The Chiefs are near the bottom, which is hard to figure. But back to what we were talking about with the pass rush. I got to tell you, they better find somebody, and maybe Osai, maybe this means his time has come, that he's ready. We talked about this with James Rapine. Somebody besides Hendrickson has got to step up and apply pressure to quarterbacks if you want to win the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, we talk about how bad the pass rush is, but it always seems like when we need a play, they make a play for us.
You're right.
That cannot be understated more. And Osai, that was a 3-man pass rush, and he was able to beat his guy to the inside where the tackle's got extra help on the inside. If it's a 3-man rush, the guard is there blocking no one. So to me, Osai, he played out of position. He played defensive tackle most of the season because we were without Reeder, we were without Tupou, so he had to play inside a lot. And now that he's been subjected to a situational type role, third down pass rush, I think he'll shine a lot more. And I mean, he was going up against Orlando Brown there. That's no sneeze. That's at least a top 10 left tackle in the league.
Well, look, if you're going to win, you're going to play teams with good offense. I mean, teams that have bad offensive lines are not going to be in the postseason when you're trying to win a big game. You're going to face those kind of guys pretty much every single week.
Right.
The thing about the secondary is they just find a way to make a play.
Yeah.
They really do. I got to tell you, I was a little concerned about the run defense yesterday a little bit.
Yeah.
A little worried, and that's the first time all year long, except for the Cleveland game, where it sort of reared its ugly head a little bit, and that will be something that will be very much a focal point for this coming week against Cleveland. But speaking of offensive lines, I mean, this Bengals offensive line, you talk about a group that's really come together. And the guy who talked about it last night at length on NBC was Jason Garrett. I think Jason Garrett's a really smart guy. I know he got fired as the head coach of the Cowboys, but this guy's a sharp guy. And Pollock was his offensive line coach here in Dallas, and the Bengals brought him in. And he was talking about how he knew this guy was going to get this group together. And look, it's not all just him. It's a talented group. It's taken them a while to get together, and we talked about that at length, about not playing in the preseason. That's been echoed over and over and over again. But now all of a sudden, whether it's the run game with P. Ryan, whether it's the passing game and protecting Burrow, there were times yesterday where Burrow looked like he had 4 minutes to throw the football.
Yep. Yeah, and kudos to Cordell Volson, who's guarding
Indeed
one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL, and Chris Jones. And they did not give up a sack. Look, it's impressive.
Between the coaching staff and the offensive line, I can't remember a time that I've watched a team with such dramatic in-season improvement as this team. Think about what we were talking about with this offensive line in the first 2 games of the season, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, man, they spent all this money. Things are looking terrible. it didn't improve. Did it get worse? Yeah. But, Tom, you made the point. They didn't play in the preseason. They were looking rusty for the first couple of weeks. Things weren't going so great. And then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? You build some chemistry. You start playing more football together. You practice over the course of the season, and now here we are. The Bengals are sitting at 8-4 after 13 weeks of football, and the offensive line is looking pretty good. Coaching staff, they make the adjustments. They're looking pretty good too. And somebody in the chat, go back and find it, might have been Andrew, the Bengals, or Zach Taylor, to his credit, 6-0 now in the last 6 games against Mike Vrabel and Andy Reid.
Yep.
I mean, you look at what this coaching staff and Lou Anarumo and everybody else have done this season. It's really impressive to me. I'm happy with the way things are trending right now.
Well, I don't know how you wouldn't be. And look, nobody's been harder on Zach Taylor at times than I have, and he's earned that, people being critical. I'm not the only one out there. I still can't believe, all I've heard about, the Bengals are back to basics. They're going to get back to basics on play calling. Now, it's my understanding that Burrow was the one who audibled down there at 4th and 1. Now, this is on the heels of a timeout. You try to get him to jump off sides. You're down inside the 2-yard line. You've run the ball the way P. Ryan has run the ball. Okay? And I understand they're all stacked up there. That's football. 4th and 1. What the hell are they going to do? Spread out on defense on you? No. They're going to pile it in there. They said Burrow was the one who checked into the play. And as much as I love Joe Burrow, I say to myself, you have got to be kidding me. That's the play you're going to audible into, handing the ball to Trent Taylor on a sweep to the short side of the field? Look, I know I'm getting critical here. They won the game. But that could have cost them the game.
Seems more like a 3rd down play than a 4th down play.
It seems like a stupid play. I don't care if it's 1st down, 2nd. You've got P. Ryan. You've got Chase, who's back, and we haven't gotten to him yet. You've got Boyd. You've got Higgins. You've got Burrow, who's an excellent running quarterback, even on a sneak. And you audible into Trent Taylor? That's the same thing as the shovel pass to Morgan.
I don't disagree with you, but the play itself, I mean, Carlos Dunlap would have given up a touchdown if they called a quarterback sneak.
Okay, but woulda, coulda, shoulda.
I know, but I'm just
the
saying.
The guy made a play, and Dunlap's a hell of a player. He was a great player here for a long time.
Right. I'm just saying he made an unbelievable play to stop that specific.
If Carlos
one.
Dunlap did what he was supposed to do as a football player on that play, if he wasn't smart about the play, if he wasn't such an intelligent player, if he just ran the scheme of that play, that was a walk-in touchdown for Trent Taylor. But credit to Carlos Dunlap. We know how good of a player he is from his time in Cincinnati.
He's an excellent player, and he has been forever, and I didn't like the way he left. But, look, I hate to even pick – I'm just sitting there watching. And, look, if it's not for the strip, okay, by Pratt, that play would have cost the Bengals the game. Now, you can say on 1st and 2nd and 3rd down they should have found a way to get in, and I'm with you all the way. I mean, that's on the offense. They've got to find a way to get that 1 or 2 yards and get a touchdown. But, man, I mean, Trent Taylor's a nice piece. He ain't a piece on 4th and 1 inside the 2.
No.
Tom, I got a question for you. And before I ask this question, I do want to say to everybody watching, make sure you hit that like button down on the channel. We have great numbers going on right now.
Yes, we do.
On the channel. So make sure you like this video. It just helps us get this recommended, get this into more people's feeds, especially as we share the video, share this. And Rick Roaring made a good point. He tweeted out this morning talking about how he's listening to Louisville sports radio right now because of the Cincinnati void of morning talk shows. We have something here for you. So if you enjoy this and you're looking for some more content, make sure you hit the like button, share it, subscribe. My question to you, Tom, you had some thoughts on Travis Kelce, I think?
Okay, here's the deal, okay? Here's the deal. And I've said this about every athlete there is out there playing. Every player has a decision to make as to whether or not they want to talk to the press. That can be during the week. I mean, guys take like Marshawn Lynch. Okay, he decided he's not doing it. He walked in there in the Super Bowl, said the same thing over. He said, I'm not going to do it. It's not me. It's not who I am. Okay? And I respect that. I really do. Because you're trying to focus on your job. You have your family at home. You're away from them all the time. And to spend an extra fill-in-the-blank amount of time talking to the press can wear you down, especially a guy who is coveted for sound bites because he's a great sound bite in Travis Kelce. I know he went to the University of Cincinnati. He's the best tight end in the NFL without a doubt. He's the best and has been for a number of years. He will go down as one of the greatest tight ends in the history of football. Ironically, he won't go down as the greatest tight end for his own franchise. That's Tony Gonzalez.
Yep.
I mean, and Gonzalez is considered to be the greatest tight end in the history of the game. He owns all the records. But Kelce is phenomenal. He'll go to the Hall of Fame one day. But here's the issue I have with Kelce, okay? Kelce is a guy who does talk to the press all the time. He's in commercials. He puts himself out there when things are going good, right? When things are going good. He fumbles for the first time all year long yesterday. Huge play in the game. And he ducks the press after the game. Does not talk to him. Now look, it's an emotional game. He's very upset. I get it. But if you're going to go out when everything's good and talk to the press, then you also have to show up when things don't go well, right? And I mean, guys like here locally, Joey Votto, if he's going good, he's right out there front and center. If he's not going well, he's right out there front and center. I give the guy credit. The quarterbacks have to do it no matter what. They don't have a choice. They really don't. I guess they do, but they don't. But for Kelce to not at least stand up in front of the cameras, and all he has to say it is 2 or 3 times to make sure everybody has it clicked on and rolling and can use a soundbite. All he has to do is come out and say, I dropped the ball here. I screwed up. I might have cost our team the game. I'm really upset. I don't have anything else to say. I hope you can respect that. I'm the one who screwed up, period. And then turn and walk away. That's all he's got to do. Am I right or wrong on that?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And he was just mad that his daddy came around and spanked him and Pratt. I mean, wow. I mean, come on, dude. You got bullied. You got outmanned. Grow up. You've been dominant in this league for how long? And you finally play a team that can stop you? Like, it's just a bad look. It's a bad look.
I'm not saying that Kelce was the reason they lost the game. That's insane to say that. Because it is a team sport and it's not all on him. But I think everyone would have to agree, including Travis Kelce, including Patrick Mahomes, including their head coach, including anybody that the owner of the team, Hunt. That was one of the 2 or 3 most critical plays in the game. Might have been the biggest play in the game. So, the Chiefs win and lose as a team. But Kelce wins and loses as a team. And I could be wrong, but the last time they won a game, or every time they've won a game, I'm willing to bet that says Kelce did not duck the press after a win. Or after a 150-yard receiving game with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. No, you're right, Tom.
Okay, so that's all I'm saying. I prefaced everything, so don't misunderstand me. I know that players don't have to talk to the press. They can be annoying. They can make you crazy. They can ask the same question 7 times, trying to get you to say something that they want you to say, not that you want to say. I get it. And I respect the fact that they don't have to do it. And look, I've walked up to 1,000 athletes when I was having to do a pregame show in baseball. Barry Bonds comes to mind. I asked him to do it one day back when he was playing with the Pirates. And I was really close with the Cubs shortstop, Sean Dunston. And Dunston knew Bonds very, very well. I had asked Bonds to come on the pregame show, just sit in the dugout, do a 4-minute interview on the radio. So he's not even on TV. Bonds says, I'm not doing it. And Dunston happened to be standing there. And he starts giving Bonds a bunch of grief about, hey, this is my guy here. And you know what? Bonds was great just to sit there and talk to. I respected the fact that he didn't want to do it. I get it. But you just can't have it both ways on this deal. Kelce should have shown up. But look, that's for Kansas City to worry about. The question becomes, fellas, as you start going, and let's go to the playoff picture.
Yeah, I got it right
All
here.
right, so we're going to take a look at this and put it up. And let's start on the left-hand side. So the Bills, because they beat the Chiefs, they have identical records, but because the Bills beat the Chiefs, the Bills are now the number 1 seed. Kansas City, number 2. Baltimore right now with a tie break, identical record to the Bengals. Okay, but they still have another game left, and we don't know what the deal is with Lamar Jackson. Although this Huntley guy, they like this guy. He started a number of games last year.
Yeah, I have a pretty interesting take.
Okay, we'll get to him in a second. Then you have the Titans as a division leader, okay? The Bengals right now, because of the tie break over the Dolphins, beating them here on that Thursday night early in the season, would be the number 5 seed if the season ended today, which means the only team that gets a bye in the first round, the wild card round, is the number 1 seed. Okay? The Bengals obviously have a chance, with Buffalo still on the schedule, among other games, to get that number 1 seed. But the way this shakes out is, in theory, number 4 would play number 5 in the opening round. So that would be the Titans and the Bengals here in Cincinnati. You'd have the Chiefs and Dolphins. You'd have the Jets and Ravens. Okay? So the way it works is the number 1 seed just sits there, and depending on how the other games shake out, they would play the highest, or in this case, the lowest seeded team, okay, in the second round. So it doesn't automatically mean that the Bengals, if they beat the Titans, would play the Bills in the second round, because if you had an upset, theoretically, where the Dolphins won or the Jets won, that team would now play the Bills in the second round, and the Bengals, Titans winner, would play the Chiefs in the second round. I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves, and we'll get back to all this stuff in a second. But the bottom line is, when you look at 3 of those teams ahead of the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Titans, for the Chiefs and the Titans, do they want any part of playing the Bengals again?
Nope.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you guys made this point last week on the show where you're saying, is this a Bengals team now that just has the Titans number? Do they have the Chiefs number? They do. If nothing else, the Bengals, especially I would say the Titans. Not to say that they don't have the Chiefs number after you beat them 3 straight times in a calendar year, but to me, there's just something about the Chiefs that they're lingering. They're there. Well, they're lingering.
We're in their head.
Yeah.
We're in their head.
And let me correct something I said here a second ago, because I want to make sure I get to this point, and it was brought up. Thank you for touching on this on the chat. That Bengals-Tennessee game would be at Tennessee.
Yeah.
If the season ended today. So forgive me. Carry on, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Chiefs and the Titans, they don't want to see us. I really don't think the Ravens want to see us.
I'm with you on that.
And if we beat the Bills, I mean,
I'm sorry. I don't want to play the Bills.
I'm with you all the way,
I
Paul.
do not want to play the Bills.
I'm with you. That's why when the Bills come here the second to last week, and, of course, all of this is theoretical because you have a number of games before that game. The Bengals still have to play at home to Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me here on the schedule, fellas. They play Cleveland this weekend. Then they would go on the road first to New England, right?
I'm checking right now.
Bucks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Browns,
the Buccaneers.
Browns, Bucks, then Pats.
Bucks, then New England.
Yes.
So after a home game this week, you're going on the road, and you're playing 2 teams that are still right there in the playoff hunt. Okay? You're playing Brady and the Bucks in Tampa. They're under 500. They have been very good. It's still Brady and the Bucks. Then you got to go to New England, who's fighting it out. They looked awful against Buffalo last week, but Buffalo has their number. They've dominated that team over the last 3 years. So, look, there's a lot that's going to transpire between then and now, and for Buffalo, too, for that matter. But, yeah, you want to beat the Bills and have a chance, obviously, to get that number 1 seed. Now, I know many of you are going, duh, who doesn't want the number 1 seed? You get a week off, all that. I get it. And you still got to win your own division to get there. But the thought of playing Buffalo in Buffalo for a second-round game is not an appealing thought.
That's a nightmare.
No. I honestly think the Bills will stub their toe before us, honestly.
Who are they playing? What do they got going on?
The Bills' schedule.
I got it pulled up right
I mean,
here.
Sir Boy Wonder, I love him. He's one of my all-time favorites. I love this dude.
But
he says the Bills don't scare me. In Buffalo, they worry me. On the road, they don't.
They got to play all three of their divisional
they go
opponents first.
Jets, Dolphins, Bears, Bengals, Pats.
Okay, so but they've already lost to Miami once. I think that game was in Miami.
Yeah.
So they got Miami coming. And look, whenever Miami shows up and they show up in those teal and white uniforms and playing up in somewhere where it's cold, you can rest assured they're getting their tails kicked.
And
they look like they're showing up for a pillow fight when they wear those unis. They do. When's the last time they won a big game in cold weather? Wearing those teal and white with a little orange trim.
I don't know. That's a good question. They're not very good in December, that's for sure. There's a lot of stats to back that up.
Got to rack up those wins at Hard Rock Stadium with the sun shining down.
Amen, brother. 80 degrees, sunshine, December. All right, we're going to take a break. We got lots to talk about. We thank everybody for being with us here today. We got a lot of people dialed in, tuned in. If there's something you want to talk about or touch on, let us know. It's Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Back in a moment.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time. And if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Swinney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Swinney, the original used car superstore.
When I lost in Anaheim, my dad was at the game, and my dad was down and out and sad. And see, back then the older generation, a lot of times they would use negative motivation as like you can't do this or hey man, you won't do that. Where nowadays you can't use negative motivation, to the young kids, because a lot of them would just sit out on you and quit. You know what I mean? So my dad. Never forget, and I've told people this, he told me, he said, son, I don't know if you'll ever win one, a pennant or not. We didn't win it that year in San Francisco because, we had them down, you know what I mean? And he says, I don't know if you'll ever win one, after this. And that's the first thing that I thought about was say, hey, Dad, you're wrong again. I mean, I swear that's the first thing I thought about. Dad, you're wrong.
Everybody wants to say, Dad, you're wrong, right? All right, welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I get a heads up that we're like coming back on, and I'm sitting there looking.
Hey,
at
here we go, go.
Good Lord, I've had enough issues already with off-the-air stuff.
I said, all right, here we go.
I know, but I mean,
as we were on the air.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Okay. A wise man once said that. Our Bengals report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and productivity. Visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. We continue to talk about the Bengalis. Huge win yesterday over the Kansas City Chiefs. We've talked about the offensive line. We've talked about the defense making a play. We've talked about Jermaine Pratt. Yes, Paul?
Hayden Hurst, have we heard any update on how he's doing? I didn't see anything. I looked after the game. I didn't see anything.
I know it was diagnosed as a calf injury.
That was it? That was all we got?
That's all
well, but I mean, you hope that, that's the kind of thing that, all it takes is one step and all of a sudden, it hurts again. That's one of those, like you get into hamstring injuries and you get into groin injuries, a calf injury, anything in your legs, man. The dunce is here. You got a comment about something? Calf injury?
Brandon's got things to share.
Well, I just wanted to bring up, I had the pleasure of meeting Hayden Hurst's mom yesterday at the tailgate, and they're doing some of the Hayden Hurst Foundation, raising some money for that.
Yep.
So that family, especially Hayden, he wants to be here more than just this year, and I'm a big fan of his. At what he does off the field, what he does on the field, he's been a beast. But his mom was telling me that she wanted to thank the Cincinnati community for everything they've done, and also he wants to be here for more than just 1 year.
Oh, that'd be nice, especially given how he's played this year.
Well, you can only spend your money in so many ways. And that's something the Bengals, and we've talked about this here, that's something the Bengals have some really important decisions to make. Mm-hmm. They don't have any of the big guys walking out the door yet. And I'm talking about their offensive skill players.
Right.
They could Chase is still on a rookie deal. Higgins, they could franchise him. Burrow's not going anywhere. Everybody talks about that contract he's going to get, and he's going to get it. But the bottom line is he's still on his rookie deal. And so, the Bengals are way under the salary cap. For the life of me, I've never understood that line of thinking in any form or fashion. I just don't get it. They've got a nice team, so you could say they're making the right decisions. I would always say you could always found another player that can make the difference in your team if you're that far under the salary cap on a one-year deal.
Yeah. And, I mean, the draft, I don't know where the Bengals aren't going to be positioned to get him, maybe, depending on how he goes. But Michael Mayer, the Covcath kid that played at Notre Dame.
He ain't coming here.
That'd be awesome.
There's no chance.
Hey, by the way.
No chance. That guy's a top 10, top 12 pick.
But he loves the Bengals.
I don't care who he likes.
It's not his call.
He's not coming here.
Hey,
I know.
It's a good thing he doesn't like the Bills or the Chiefs or some of those teams, too. Because there's no chance he's going to any of them unless they make a draft day deal. And you're not making a draft day deal for a tight end.
What if he says that he's not going anywhere but the Bengals?
Then he'll be sitting in Covington, Kentucky, watching football next year, which would not be a wise decision.
He's a great guy.
Great guy, great player.
I know him really, really well. I broadcasted all his high school games, and he was I don't need to get into it, but I just can't say enough about how good of a guy him and his
leader of men.
No
his brother was a quarterback at Miami.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him interviewed. He did a really cool thing. I don't know if you guys saw it before one of the Notre Dame games this year, where he was walking around before the field on the game, but he had a microphone on, earpiece in, and was being interviewed by the guys on the College Game Day show.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool. I mean, you could tell he's a great kid.
Yeah.
A quick thought, Tom, before I step out. What do you think about the Houday stash here?
I'm going to let our viewers decide on that. You know me. I'm not a facial hair guy. Doesn't mean I have anything against anybody who has it. But but you're doing it until as long as the Bengals keep winning, correct?
Correct.
Sir Boy Wonder loves it.
All right, there's one.
Trace likes it. He's your boss, so that's really good.
All right, then I have to keep it then. No pies to the face with the mustache, though.
What's that?
No pies to the face with the mustache, though. Remember that debacle our first week?
Yes, I do. Yeah, that was not good. That was a frozen pie. That
was a brick I got shoved.
Is he ever coming back to work again?
Reed?
Yeah, he's coming back this Tuesday. He was gone on a family.
His sister
wedding.
got married at 5 o'clock yesterday, Eastern time, in Florida.
On a Sunday.
5 o'clock.
At her marriage, she's 1-0.
1-0.
Yeah.
For the Bengals.
For the Bengals.
1-0, baby. Lock it up.
Matt says he's all about the stash, Brandon.
I've never grown a mustache,
you're
so
looking
I'm
good.
stuck.
You're looking good.
Are they going to beat the Browns?
No, we're not starting that now.
We're not starting that yet.
We're
What
not
does
doing
Casey
that.
think about that?
We're not doing that now.
I want to
Started on
ask.
that.
Well, I want to ask Casey about. He teased like something that he's not going to tell us till they win the Super Bowl. You can't tease us something from
What?
4 months from now.
Yeah.
Is there a direction to that at all? Like what? I mean,
No, I'm just gonna keep reminding everyone that I have something to say, but I'm waiting until they win the Super Bowl, and you guys will know I've been sitting on this thought for 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
All right.
All right. The other two guys we did not talk much about, and normally they're front and center in every conversation when it comes to the Bengals, but the return of Jamar Chase. This guy.
Did you see that picture from Sam Green of the catch that he made on the sideline? It didn't count.
Yeah.
I mean,
One-handed catch.
Sam's an unbelievable photographer. I mean, he's taken some of the best Cincinnati sports pictures over the last few years, but what a picture. And what a catch, even though it didn't count. But just what Jamar was able to do yesterday, you always wonder when guys get hurt, they're out for extended time, they come back, do they get eased in?
Yep.
How do they get utilized in a game? He was full go right away. And that goes back to the point that he made from the week before where you sort of got the sense that if that Tennessee game was the Super Bowl, he probably would have played. You kind of got that sense last week against Tennessee that they talked about.
Well, if it was the Super Bowl, but he was a guy that took himself out of that for precautionary reasons. So you're right.
I'm saying, though, as it relates to yesterday's game where you're not just easing a guy back in, you get him in for a few snaps, try to get him maybe 2 or 3 catches, call it a day. Like, he was full go, full availability, and that goes back to how they were able to stretch out his injury, recovery, because last thing you want to do is get somebody like him hurt for a longer period of time. So that was great to see.
I mean, he goes 7 for, 97?
Yep.
Yeah. Doesn't score a touchdown, but had some big catches in the game. Clearly, his presence and his fire and his passion for playing and winning and competing. The other guy's Higgins. Quiet yesterday. Yes, he scored a touchdown. But the biggest play of the game, or one of the biggest plays of the game, that throw by Burrow on that 3rd and 11 to give him a chance to go ahead and take a knee. Here it is. If you didn't see it, watch this window that he has. There's going to be a linebacker to the right, and watch this throw. I mean, look at that right there. 6 is covering the tight end, okay? Crossing pattern. Burrow right behind the guy's ear. And look at that window. And give Higgins credit for catching it because it should have been interference. The guy's draped all over him, and he still hung on. A lot of guys don't catch that ball, and you wouldn't blame him for not catching it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just impressive all around. I mean, he's throwing that with a guy who probably should have at least batted the ball out of his arm. I mean, he's so close to hitting Burrow, and he makes a really good throw under pressure.
It's a phenomenal throw. It's not a really good throw. That is a phenomenal throw. It's the only play he could have caught the ball. Only place he could have caught the ball. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And I got to tell you, and I've said this, and I'm not saying it because they beat him yesterday. I've said this all year. Burrow is a better quarterback than Mahomes.
Agreed.
Burrow's better. He's a better player. I know Mahomes does some of the spectacular, and there's no doubt that he has been the best quarterback in the NFL over the last 4 years. There is no question about it. Led his team to a Super Bowl title, played in another Super Bowl, they get beat, goes to the AFC Championship game last year, they lose, but over the last 4 years has been the best quarterback in the league. But right now, I would take Burrow over Mahomes, and I don't say that because we're in Cincinnati.
No,
I don't think that's crazy to say at all, especially with the way that now they've gone head-to-head against each other, and Burrow's shown what he's been able to – because the thing with Pat Mahomes was always he can run, he can pass, he can do it all. But what Joe's been able to do yesterday, and what did Joe finish, 25 or 26 for 31?
25 of 31. I just pulled up the box score just to – I mean, listen to these numbers. Here's Joe Burrow's numbers, 25-31. 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he technically had a sack, but it wasn't really a true offensive line
no
pressure sack.
Turnovers.
No turnovers. Patrick Mahomes, 16 of 27 for 223 yards, a touchdown, and 2 sacks.
And a pick.
No pick.
Oh, I thought he threw a pick. They turned the ball. I know what I read is that Kansas City, Andy Reid has been a head coach for 24 years in the NFL, Philadelphia and Kansas City. Right now, his Kansas City Chiefs team has turned the ball over in 7 consecutive games. That is the longest streak in Andy Reid's 24-year tenure as a head coach for any team he's coached.
It's not a winning formula.
I mean, they find a way to win games. Look, they're tied for the best record in the conference with Buffalo. 1 game better than the Bengals. So, look, they've been a better team than the Bengals this year. They have been. And I'm not sitting here saying if they played again that the Bengals would beat them. I'm not so sure of that. And Don is a regular part of the program who does, lend some arguments about this that are all viable arguments about, Mahomes and, how can you really say one's better than the other? I'm not. All I'm saying is if I had to pick one or the other to win tomorrow in the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game, I would take Burrow over Mahomes and Josh Allen. Burrow doesn't get enough credit for the way he runs the ball. No. Burrow is an excellent runner, and his timing on when to run is extraordinarily good. Now, is he the same runner as Mahomes? He's certainly not the same runner as Josh Allen. But Burrow is a very good runner when he has to be.
I thought that's exactly the point I was going to make, where he doesn't always run the ball, but when he has to, he's not afraid to, and he's not afraid to take a hit either.
Yep.
He's not afraid to get those extra 3 or 4 yards that you concede when you slide. He got nailed on one of those hits yesterday.
Yes, he did.
A direct shot. And just bounce right back up, throws the ball down, on to the next. That's a tough look.
Yeah.
A good tough look.
The dude is a machine. I'll just put it like that. He makes the right move 95% of the time.
But like every quarterback, he makes the right move when he has protection. Because we have seen the games where he hasn't had protection. And look, we will all concede that he came back from the appendectomy very early, probably wasn't 100%. The offensive line was in shambles the first 2 weeks of the year. He got sacked 13 times. But when they give him time, and this offensive line has gotten better and better and better, it's becoming a strength rather than something we talk about as a weakness. Now, I still want to see him against some legitimate defensive lines, okay? So, you say whatever you want. I think that wild card still exists, but I think it does for every offensive line. They have been hurt and hurt badly by teams that have really good edge pass rushers. And Kansas City does not have it. Clark is just getting back. I know they got pushed in the middle with Jones, but that is not an elite pass rushing team by any means.
No, they're in line more with our sort of pass rush, where they just kind of get home when they needed to, but they didn't this time. And Joe Burrow is just a killer. He straight up just.
It's a good way to put it.
He just is so calculated, just so meticulous. It's really impressive. It's really something to behold. Honestly, it's awesome. But there's one thing I want to mention about this game that actually could have been a lot uglier than what the score actually was. We left 10 points on the board. I don't know if y'all recognize that,
well,
but the fourth and one stop that we all talked about, But Tyler Boyd was wide open on that touchdown. And he drops a ball, a fluke. I mean, he never drops the ball.
Well, let's don't get carried away now. Let's not get carried away. The two biggest games that he has played in, and there is no bigger fan of Tyler Boyd than I am. But these are the things, no matter what your career does, these are the things that people, unfortunately, are going to remember. It was pointed out, as illustrated as you can best do it, reflecting back to the college game for a minute. But when C.J. Stroud, the quarterback of Ohio State, who's been the best 2-year quarterback they've ever had in the history of the school, better than Justin Fields, better than Dwayne Haskins, better than all of them. But until they just got in this college football playoff, and here's a kid who stood up as a 20-year-old kid and understood the situation when after the Michigan game, second year in a row he's been the starter and they've lost the game, not all on him. But he said, hey, look, this is what people are going to remember, that I was here. They're not going to remember the touchdowns, not going to remember the chance of winning a Heisman Trophy. They're going to remember that I lost to Michigan 2 years in a row. That's what they're going to remember. He has a chance now for redemption on that thing. But Boyd in the Super Bowl.
That was the last time he dropped it.
Again, I understand that. Okay?
Yeah.
But if they lose the game yesterday, what are we talking about?
We're talking about that drop.
We're talking about the drop. And if he catches the ball in the Super Bowl, they still have the ball with a chance to win the game. So I love Tyler Boyd. In fact, if you put a gun to my head, he's my favorite player on the Bengals team. I think the guy's a gamer. I think he's passionate. I think he's tough. I think he cares. He's unbelievably unselfish. He never gets wrapped up in Chase getting all the catches in the pub or Higgins getting all the catches in the pub. He just shows up every week, and about every third or fourth game, he'll be the main guy and goes off for 115, 120 yards, and he's a player of the game. But you can't say he never drops a ball.
Yeah, I'm going back right now. I had forgotten that Super Bowl.
That was
drop.
a huge, as big a play as there was in the Super Bowl is his drop. But we're going to get to Brian Billick, leader of men, Brian Billick. And look at this shirt he is sporting today. I mean, you are an unbelievable front runner. You're there in Columbus now making your home. You didn't show up. You showed up last week with some 49ers jersey on after Ohio State had lost to Michigan. And now that must be your workout shirt today. Are you out biking or something today?
I got a sprained ankle jumping on and off this bandwagon. So like everybody else around here, boy, they wanted to hang Ryan Day a week ago, and now they're everybody's fired up.
Were you surprised they got in? You're not surprised they got in as a number 4 seed, right?
It's always the debate of, okay, is this the 4 best teams that should be in the playoffs, or is this the 4 teams that are the most deserving? Those are two different conversations. And I think they could have made a case that maybe Alabama is one of the best, but I think they got the best 4 teams that are the most representative. So, yeah, I don't know that anybody could argue. Alabama, I'm sure, is upset, but that's just on pedigree. So, I think we got the right 4 teams.
But before we get to the pro game a second, did you have a chance at all to watch the TCU game on Saturday, the Big 12 title game?
I did. Interesting game.
Your thoughts on – I got to tell you, Coach, and I watch every TCU game now because I have a kid that goes to school down there, so, I mean, I'm really on the bandwagon. But that Max Duggan kid, Brian, and I said it at the opening of the show, what he did in that final fourth quarter, hell, I'd give him the Heisman just based on that.
How great is it that he, and I apologize for getting the name, the kid at Purdue, are both walk-ons?
Yeah.
I mean, that just tells you, it goes back to the and even the kid at Georgia.
Bennett, right? Stetson Bennett, yep.
Tried to get rid of a million times. That goes back to the conversation we've always had in the premise of my book, The Q Factor, about how hard it is to identify the attributes that make a great quarterback. Because there you got 3 guys right there that the collective powers that be said, no, they're better quarterbacks and how they're recruited or drafted or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's great for college football. I think it's great for the game. And, it's going to be. Now, I don't know. Having said that, I don't know whether it's TCU, whether it's Michigan, whether it's Ohio State. I don't know who's going to beat Georgia, but we're going to see.
Yep, we're about to find out. All right, now to the pro game. 3 in a row now, Brian. First time in Patrick Mahomes' young career where an opposing quarterback has beaten him 3 times in a row. That, of course, now is Joe Burrow. That is a big-time win for the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday, is it not?
Huge, probably defining. Now, we're talking about a team who went to the Super Bowl last year. So it's hard to say, okay, this was a organizational sea change, but to back it up with what they did, and that was and Joe Burrow was just special. That throw he made to Higgins on that last play was big time. Was just big time. So, 2 best young quarterbacks in the game. It's going to be interesting going forward. They clearly, as my good friend, we'll debate. Okay, so is it Kansas City? Is it Buffalo? Is it Cincinnati? They all live in the same cul-de-sac right now. Okay, you can make a case one way or the other, whichever way you want to go. But they're clearly the 3 best quarterbacks in the pro football right now, and all just a little bit different way. But this is going to get fun in the AFC.
Let your old team, where you won a Super Bowl as head coach, the Ravens, and we've talked about. I always say, Brian, and I know you agree with this. Hey, look, a win is a win is a win. You got to find a way just to win and move on to the next week. And the Ravens, despite playing really ugly offensive football, are playing very well on defense against some lesser competition, but they're stepping up, making plays. They win the game yesterday as Huntley replaces Lamar Jackson. Let's start, and I don't know how much you've seen him. I think he started when Jackson was hurt a handful of games last year. What are your thoughts, a scouting report, I guess for lack of a better term, on Huntley?
Well, I do a film breakdown for Ravens.com every week. And so I did last year as well. And I'm very impressed with Huntley. I think he's a legitimate guy. Now, he's not the runner that Lamar Jackson is, but who is? No one else is in the National Football League. Frankly, I think he's maybe better from the pocket than Lamar Jackson. But what you see missing is in their numbers last weekend, they were 28 carries for 103 yards. So they're missing that 40, 50, 60, 70 yards that Lamar Jackson gives them that makes them such a unique and dominant running game. This is a different offense. And we saw last year that Lamar went down there, lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
So this is going to be but I think Huntley is good. I think he's someone that he can carry this team to a degree. They're just not going to have. And now all the conversations we have about, well, they don't have the dominant outside receivers. Yeah, they have a great tight end. It's the running game. It's that balance. They gobble up the time of possession. And playing good defense. That's the thing that puts them among the elite in the AFC. They don't have that anymore in the running game. We're going to see how good the running game is. And Huntley can run. He can run around and do some things, make no mistake. He just doesn't have those big explosive plays that Lamar Jackson has. So we're going to see now going down the stretch here and then notwithstanding, the injury on Lamar Jackson, we'll see how serious that is. I haven't seen yet exactly what they're saying. But it changes the price of poker for them. And you, like you say, coming up, other than their schedule for the Ravens coming up is not overtaxed. They do play the Steelers, okay, yeah, and that's always a tough game, regardless of what the record is and what they're saying. But then they play the Falcons. They play the Browns, who now with Deshaun Watson, we'll see how good they are. I'm actually going to do a radio game, the Bengals, Ravens at Bengals last weekend. That's going to be interesting.
The 49ers. Now, going all the way back to before the season started, Brian, you and I discussed the decision made by John Lynch, their general manager, head coach Kyle Shanahan. They were going to give the number 1 pick, Trey Lance, a chance. He gets hurt. Back comes Garoppolo. Now, all of a sudden, it takes him a little while to get it going, but the team now really starts to get healthy again, especially that defense. And now, lo and behold, yesterday, Garoppolo breaks his foot. He's out for the year. and they turned to a guy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was the last pick in the draft, the 262nd pick, Brock Purdy out of Iowa State. You're the head coach, Kyle Shanahan. What do you do on this Monday morning?
Yeah, you just you kind of shake your head a little bit and go, okay, this is where we're at. This is, you always prepare your team during the course of the really training camp. Okay, what are we going to do when someone gets hurt? Okay, you don't want to just wake up the morning after a big injury and kind of go, oh God, what do we do now? Players got to know you got to plan, got to know that it's the next man up. But as we've always said, the next man up's not as good. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the next man up. Brock Purdy, and he was efficient against Miami. Let's remember, Miami's a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
They're defense. He was very efficient, 25-37 for 210 yards. He did throw the interception. But what did they do? They were able to stay with the plan. They ran the ball 34 times. So that this team can weather, and let's also remember that we still had questions. Well, how good really is Garoppolo? And is he just kind of managing the process? So, can they continue on with what they're doing? Sure. Does that change? Does that change the dynamics in terms of where they are among the elite, whether it be Dallas, whether it be Philadelphia, whether it be Minnesota in the NFC? We'll see. But their formula can survive the loss of that top quarterback better than maybe some others.
Last thing I want to ask you about is Deshaun Watson. I don't know how much of his game you saw yesterday. It's the first time in over 700 days that he played in an NFL game. He didn't look particularly sharp. My question for you is, I don't know how much experience you've had with something like this. It's unique for sure. Just as a player, forget the personal stuff. Would you expect to see a significant difference in Deshaun Watson from yesterday to this coming Sunday? They play the Bengals here this Sunday. Or would you suspect, or maybe it's only logic, that you're going to see incremental improvement now through the end of the year, week by week?
Well, it'll be incremental, but it will show up quick. Now, whether it can show up in the second game that quickly against a very good opponent, where it will show up, and the difficulty is if Cincinnati, who is certainly capable of making it a track meet, turns it into a track meet, then that's not going to be good, because now you're going to force Deshaun Watson into a 40-45 game throw. And now just coming off the bench, so to speak, and coming off that layoff you just outlined, that might be a bit ambitious. If they can keep it in that 25 to 30 pitch count, they ran the ball very well. And that's clearly what they tried to do against Houston. They ran the ball 38 times for 170 plus yards. So if they can keep that kind of formula and keep the game close, then I think Deshaun, but it will start to come more and more incrementally, because that is a long layoff and it takes a while to get into that shape. He is an outstanding player. There's no debating that. But it will take a little bit longer than the second week against a very good opponent. I don't know that we'll see a huge difference, and particularly if he gets pushed in that 40-45 throw game.
All right, Coach Billick, great to see you. Love the shirt. Maybe you're going to go down there and talk to Ryan Day a little bit about.
No, he didn't need my help, that's for sure.
Yeah, yes, they could all use your help, Coach Billick, because you've got that Super Bowl ring, my man. You've got that Super Bowl ring.
Man. We'll talk next week.
Take care. All right, see you. Brian Billick, kind enough to join us each and every week. Love his insight, especially, I would highly recommend you read his book, because I used to be around him every week. And one of the chapters in that book has to do with, and he alluded to it, about evaluating quarterbacks. This is no exact science. And I remember he told me at one time, and I think I've shared this on this show before, but he had told me that either the first, second, or third highest rated quarterback, based on everything that he looked at through the years, coming out of college, was Achilles Smith. Remember him, Bengals fans? Number one Bengals pick. So obviously Brian Billick wasn't alone. He was the head coach of the Ravens at the time. He thought this guy was going to be a really good player. Didn't work out. He was playing on a bad team, in fairness to him. But he goes through, look, anybody would be able to pick John Elway. Okay? Let's remember, Patrick Mahomes was not the first quarterback chosen when he came out of Texas Tech. Right?
Mitch Trubisky.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, that right there is maybe as good an illustration as there is about how truly hard all of us think we can see something and think we're smarter than everybody else. Lord knows I'm as guilty of that as anybody on the planet when it comes to this stuff. But it's not. I think, just look at Burrow at Ohio State. Okay, and we walked through this. Urban Meyer, he was the one who made the decision. He was on the show 2 weeks ago on the big interview. Okay, when you looked at everything they had going on, which the other thing people never talk about, and Urban did, is when the job was open, Burrow broke his hand. Had his hand broken. Okay, so that took him out of the mix, even if he was truly in the hunt for the job. Dwayne Haskins gets a job, J.T. Barrett the year before. Ohio State won a lot of games with those two guys, and they put up big numbers. But Burrow goes to LSU, was just okay, his first year playing. But in fairness to him, that was his first year playing college football. He had not played in 3 years if you include a redshirt year at Ohio State. And then his second year, he's the best quarterback on the planet in the college game, and the rest is history.
Was that LSU team the greatest college football team of all time?
I wouldn't say the greatest college football team. Nobody on the planet would have beaten in their heyday, at least in my lifetime. And I can't speak for, Woody Hayes. Nobody would have beaten those USC teams in two different generations. You go back and look at that team that won the national championship that Anthony Munoz played on. Go back and look at that roster. There's like 15 or 18 guys that played in the NFL, and about 9 of them are in the Hall of Fame. And then the Pete Carroll team. No way. Reggie Bush, that whole group, nobody was beating that team. Nobody. LSU was great. Arguably the greatest offensive season. It is the greatest offensive season. Statistically, right?
Yeah, statistically.
In the history of college football. Nobody was beaten. And believe me, that pains me to say that because I can't stand USC. But when Reggie Bush and Pete, they had it going on, man. They had it going on. And it's not to say they didn't lose a game. They did. But they won, I think, back-to-back national championships, didn't they? SC, or did one of those teams lose?
Which, Reggie Bush, they didn't win back-to-back, did they?
Let's take a look here now. I think they might have won back-to-back national championships. Let me take a look here real quick. They had Matt Leinart as a quarterback. They had back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners. I know that.
Yeah, they did. 2003, 2004. But that wasn't – was it? Yeah, it was.
Is that what it was? They won the whole thing? 2 years in a row?
What the hell is an unclaimed national title?
Well, that's because they got placed on probation.
Yeah.
Oh, that was 2007.
I
don't
Oh, no. Here it was.
I
In
don't remember.
2003, this was in the BCS days, they beat number 2 LSU. Or no, LSU beat Oklahoma. SC beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl. USC finished ranked number 1 in the AP, given the AP national championship. LSU, however, won the BCS championship title for that year, prompting a split in the national championship. They had it going on. But all kinds of issues with, obviously, Reggie Bush.
Texas won one of those games, didn't they?
What's that?
Didn't Texas in that game that everybody thought was the greatest college football game of all time?
With Young or whatever, Vince Young.
2004 was the year they won the whole thing. They won the whole thing outright. 13-0, won the national championship.
Okay. All right, so we're on the same page.
We're on the same. Yes, there was one of those years where it was, the game you're talking about that everybody remembers.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
But Pete had it going on. Okay, we're going to take a break. We still got to get to picks this week.
We do. You know, one other thing before we take a break, just to kind of wrap up some stuff with the NFL. This comes from an article that Mike Sando wrote. Listen to this excerpt here. Before Sunday, NFL teams were 0-206 since 1995 when committing 2 turnovers, forcing none, and failing to score more than 10 points. The Ravens yesterday made it 1-206. I mean, 2 turnovers, didn't create a turnover, and didn't score more than 10 points, and they still beat the Broncos. Broncos got issues. They have some serious.
Boy, you're not lying. What are they going to do?
What are they going to do,
What
Tom?
are they going to do? I was thinking about that driving in this morning because I was thinking about things to ask Brian Billick about. This was and talking about, franchises that at one time was the model franchise in the NFL, the Denver Broncos. Great teams, great ownership, competitive every single year, blah, blah, blah. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like every other year they're making a head coaching change. I have no doubt they will make another one at the end of this season. They go out and get Russell Wilson, think it's all going to go well this year. It has not. They've played defense well enough to be a playoff team. But what are you going to do? Wilson is owed a fortune.
Yeah, I know Wilson hasn't played great. But the head coach isn't really a proven head coach, right? I mean, he was a offensive coordinator, a quarterback's coach for Green Bay. Is that right? Nathaniel Hackett?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure. And we already knew that Aaron Rodgers was pretty good. So I don't know if maybe it's more about coaching than it is Russell Wilson. It's just so hard for me to believe that Russell has taken such a nosedive from being regarded as a guy that's in the MVP conversation to this. I mean,
what? No, he's never been in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, he has.
I mean,
he's
never gotten an MVP. He's never gotten an MVP vote. Not one. He's never in his career gotten one MVP vote. I understand that he's had good seasons, but to me, to be in the MVP conversation, you have to get a vote. That's how poorly he has played down the stretch at times. I'm just putting it in perspective. Never even one vote. Not even, forget winning it. I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying.
There's a stretch of play where they believed he had an MVP caliber type quarterback. I'm not saying he's an MVP type player. I'm just saying he was a good quarterback. Was a good quarterback. And it's just so hard for me to believe that he's statistically one of the worst now. It's like
he's bad.
It's really bad. It's insane how bad it is.
Where would he be on your stink list of quarterbacks?
He'd be on the Browns. He's really bad.
He'd be in the Browns tier?
Yes.
Okay, good.
He's really, really bad. And I'm hoping it's just schematics. But it can't be. That's the issue, is that you can't be this bad and it just be scheme and not also be a player issue. I mean, it's a two-folded situation here. It's bad for the Broncos. But anyways, moving on from that debacle, the Browns, can we talk about them for a second and how much their offense just stinks?
We have all week to talk about the Browns.
I mean, they just stink. Really bad, Tom.
They won a game.
Their offense
They're 5-7 on the year.
Here, let's go.
They're 5-7 on the year. I mean, look, when you look at what's going on right now, put that playoff picture thing back up there again. Okay? You've got the Jets sitting there. What are they, 7-5?
Yep.
Browns are 5-7.
2 games back.
Okay, you got New England sitting there in between. This Browns team is not DUN yet.
Statistically.
They are fighting for a playoff spot, and the Jets, as we mentioned earlier, still have games against Miami, have game against Buffalo. I don't know who else the Jets are playing. I would imagine probably not all that tough. I could be 1,000% wrong, but, I mean, they're playing a last-place schedule. But they happen to be this year playing in a very good division, the best in the AFC without a doubt.
Right.
And look, you say whatever you want. And, I mean, it's not pretty, for sure. But now all of a sudden in Cleveland, there is a little bit of hope.
Paul, what's the line?
What's the line? Let's
What's
play
the
Guess
line?
the Line. What do you think it is? I know the line, actually. But what do you think it is, Casey? If you read your text.
6.5? Bengals? 6.5?
I think that's what it is. It's down to 6.
Down to 6.
Okay. All right. One thing I want to do before we get to our picks, and we have plenty of time for that, we have to spend a couple of moments here talking about the Scott Satterfield hire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
We have to do this, okay?
We have to.
Sounds like it pains you, Tom. We have to.
No, I mean I think it's important because there are a lot. I mean, people really care about UC football, and rightfully so. This is a huge hire. The last athletic director was the one who's now at USC and hired Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
He was the one that hired Luke Fickell, not John Cunningham.
John Cunningham hired Wes Miller.
That's the only major coach of the major sports that he has hired so far, and it's only the start of the second year for Wes, so we see how it goes. Now, Satterfield went to Appalachian State, was a quarterback there under Jerry Moore, their legendary head coach. It really got that program off and running. And he joined the staff and later became the head coach. His first year there, he goes 7-5, and then in subsequent years, 11-2, won a bowl game. 10-3, wins a bowl game. 9-4, wins a bowl game. 10-2. Then he goes to Louisville. Now, I don't know what's going on in Louisville. I know it looked like for a long time there that program was starting one of these, right? And you had Lamar Jackson was there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you had, they were going like this. You had that outlaw down there, but the guy can coach, Petrino. You had all that going on. But they looked like they were going this. And look, for those of you that have not spent time in Louisville basketball and football is like a pro team. And what I mean by that is you've got Louisville, one of the 50 largest cities in the United States of America, without a professional sports franchise in the entire state. Louisville is the only game in town, and they got a lot of big money down there. Their football stadium is incredible. You could argue their basketball arena is the nicest in college basketball today. It's a big league operation. Satterfield takes over this program. They go 8-5, win a bowl game. Then they go to 4-7. Then they're 6-7. And then this year, 7-5, set to play Louisville. Gentlemen, your thoughts, if any, about hiring Scott Satterfield. He is 49 years old and a native of Hillsborough, North Carolina. Thoughts, if any?
This hire, you just sort of go, all right, whatever. Right? I don't know what this really says. You felt like you had some names last week, maybe, but then you started to hear about MAC coaches. You were throwing out Toledo, or Kent State. That doesn't get the blood flowing. I don't know.
That's not it.
He's not a bad coach. He has a top 20 recruiting class at Louisville. He's a younger guy. Not young, but he's not 60s. He's 47, I think.
49. But in fairness,
49.
when he took over for Petrino at Louisville, they had gone 2-10.
Yeah.
So he took over a ravaged Louisville program.
But this is a Louisville fan base that would probably want to go help pack his bags. He didn't get fired, but he got out of town when he knew he needed to get out of town. That's what Scott Satterfield did going up here to UC. So he's not a bad coach, and he can recruit. But does this get the blood moving, I guess, is my question.
Again, I mean, probably not is the answer to that question, but here's the deal. Satterfield 4 years ago, when he was 44 years old, 5 years ago, when he gets this Louisville job, he had taken Appalachian State. And let's remember now, he was a coach there as they went through the whole transition from the FCS to the FBS.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a huge transition. You're all of a sudden playing teams that, they've got a lot more money. They've been able to do this. They've been in the highest level of D1 for a long time. And in 5 years there, he goes 47-16. I mean, that's getting it done now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's getting it done. So all of a sudden, like a lot of these hot young coaches we've been talking about through this whole UC process, okay, he was one of these guys 5 years ago at 44 years old, which everybody's saying, man, we got to hire that guy from App State. Well, Louisville's a school that did. And they were coming off a 2-10 season, the Petrino fiasco. They run him out, and they're bringing this guy to get it going. In fairness, he's taken him to 3 bowl games. This will be the 3rd in 4 seasons. So are you really – some can make the argument, you're kind of catching lightning in a bottle here on this deal because this guy clearly, a lot of people think he can coach and he knows what he's doing, okay? And I don't know enough about Louisville. Maybe we'll get somebody on from Louisville to walk us through some of this stuff and their thoughts on Satterfield. It's going to become official a little bit later on today. But – maybe you're getting a guy who all of a sudden, now he's going to help lead UC into the Big 12. The schools are only, 100 and something miles apart, right?
Yep. Yeah.
He knows the area, been around long enough now where he's probably got a good, solid recruiting base in some other places too.
I don't think it's a bad hire necessarily. I think more so where I have the question marks is that it sounds like this didn't come together until yesterday. And obviously, I don't have any insider information. I'm just reading what other people have said. But if you're talking about what you've been looking at through the entire last week and this coaching search and how long this has gone on, and UC had basically said they wanted to have a press conference today, which they wanted to have this done when the weekend was over. To me, the way this dragged on and you never got a clear indication of who they were going after, and there were some names being thrown around. Deion was on the list, but Deion didn't sound like was ever really an option. He was never an option.
No, never.
It was never an option at UC.
Only here on Off the Bench.
Only here on Off the Bench. He was never a true option at UC. So I don't know. I just think it better work out.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I look at the resume and I go, well, the ACC, is it better than the Big 12?
No.
No.
Top to bottom, no.
It's not even a question.
And he literally went practically 500.
But you got to take into account, Casey, in fairness. You got to take into account the team was 2-10 the year before he got there. It was a mess. I mean, and he won the ACC Coach of the Year the following season.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, he definitely turned the program around. It's hard to judge, right? Because Louisville's not really a football school, and he was able to do what he did. So that's my problem evaluating him currently right now is – he was going up against guys like in Clemson and Pittsburgh and like
good
Miami.
Solid teams. Good. I mean, even the
Miami
NC States and the North Carolinas of the world, those
Florida
are
State,
good, solid teams.
Yeah,
Notre Dame.
Those all had really good teams as of late. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when we had North Carolina guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. But anyways, there's been really good teams. So it's really tough to really evaluate him right now in that small sample size that we have on a Power 5 school.
Yeah.
Now, to me, you just go look at Deion Sanders' press conference and all the publicity and all the different phone calls Colorado's gotten just in that one press conference. I mean, there's recruits calling the school that they want to go join Deion Sanders that are 5-star, 4-star.
He's got to coach them.
I get that, but at least you would have gotten them in the program at UC. And if it doesn't work
he's
out,
doing
then
something right once he gets them because they didn't lose a game. And you can say, well, it's a Jackson State. Well, I mean, they're playing on the same playing field as everybody else who competes in their level. And, I mean, he's kicking the snot out of everybody.
Did you watch his speech yesterday?
I did
like
not.
7 minutes.
I did not.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought
it was great. It got me fired up. I'm not even a fan of Colorado. Couldn't care less.
You're going to have people flocking to Colorado to come play football.
Just to sum up that press conference, Deion's coming.
Yeah.
He's coming.
And there's no doubt. And he's got his son on board, who had a great year this year, threw for what I think it was 3,400 yards and 39 touchdowns, whatever it is. And he's going with Dad to Colorado. And the transfer portal opens up today in college football. And there are going to be guys – I mean, I was just going through the list real quick of guys that had already announced they were going. I mean, guys like – and I don't know if the guy's any good or not. I don't even know his name. But he was a 4-star recruit as a linebacker at USC a year ago. And for whatever reason, his first year and a half, he hadn't been in the mix for playing time. Well, he's going somewhere. And he might stink somewhere. I have no idea. But there are a lot of these guys – that all of a sudden, for one reason or another, injury, somebody played better, blah, blah, blah. Didn't fit, didn't like the school, whatever it might be. But now with this portal, and this is the same for everybody, Satterfield included at UC, where all of a sudden, you're out there trying to bring in this guy, bring in that guy, and a shot to have him, Deion Sanders will get in the room, as we said last week. He will get in the room with mom and dad. You can take it to the bank. All right, our picks are next. Back in a moment.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time. And if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
There's 2 beds in that room. There's 2 double beds.
Boy, your
in that room. Jim wants to know, said it kind of reminds me of Mr. and Mrs. Wilson on Dennis the Menace. There are a lot of people wondering, what's going on down there. Because you've been very hard on Danae on this program. I mean, you have worn her out when it comes to her choice of accommodations on places where you guys have been staying, whether it was down in Mexico. Right. I think you referred to that 6-star resort as a dump. And then you went on to say that the house you rented down on the Gulf side of Florida here the last couple of weeks was also a dump. Anything you want to share, or would you just rather stay away from that topic?
No, we're catching a situation. There's no doubt about it. But, Casey, this is what you have to look forward to when you're married for 13 years. You see that? No action, pulling no wool, and then going back, pulling no wool. So 13 years of marriage, that's what it gets you. 2 separate queen beds. And you know who Tucker slept with last night? Danae. I'm all by myself. And don't think I'm not going to go to that Taylor Swift concert and get me some phone numbers so I can get a Mrs. Jones number 3. Because I will. I ain't messing around.
Paul, you're fired up for Taylor Swift.
I am so fired up for Taylor Swift, Tom. Unbelievably fired up for Taylor Swift.
She's pretty fired up about the way this whole debacle has gone down with the tickets and everything. I mean, she says she's upset about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, what the deal is. What I do know is I'm drinking this Pawnee water, and if you're still drinking regular water, you might want to reconsider. Did you know that alkaline water has been shown to have superior hydration benefits versus regular water, and that's in clinical studies? This is a new premium alkaline water that's out now, Pawnee, P-A-H-H-N-I, and they're right across the street, right here in downtown Hamilton. They use natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that many other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water that is the best tasting water in the world. Please visit their website, pawneewater.com. That's P-A-H, we put it up there. That's P-A-H-H-N-I water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water at a store near you. Look at that. Is there a better pitch man than Casey?
I love their water, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's fantastic. We got an interesting note here from Jeremy on the chat. Now, this is interesting, okay? He says his sister works in the Louisville athletic department and is really happy for Satterfield to get out of there. He never had a chance at Louisville. The boosters all wanted Brom to stay. That's the guy that left and went to what, Purdue?
He's coming back.
Yeah.
He's coming back.
That's what they would hope.
No, it wasn't Purdue, right? Was it Purdue?
I thought it was. Was it Purdue? He's at Purdue, isn't he? I thought it was Iowa State. Is he at Purdue?
No, Iowa State is Campbell. Yeah, he's at Purdue. Brom is at Purdue, and they played the Big Ten championship game. But look, Purdue is a better job than Louisville. It's a better job. It's a better conference. But if you're a head coach and you're thinking about getting my team in the expanded 12-team playoff in 2 years from now, where are your chances better to do that? Purdue. Okay, this year you got 2 teams in the Big Ten that are in the Final Four, right? Ohio State, Michigan. Those are the gold standard in the conference. You got Penn State. You got Wisconsin. You've got USC and UCLA joining the conference. Iowa is still a really tough out to play. Maryland is getting considerably better in a hurry. Okay? Illinois, now with Bielema there, almost beat Michigan. Second to last game of the year. 2-point win by Michigan over Illinois. You going to go to the college football playoff as a member of the Big Ten at Purdue? Maybe. But you got a better chance at Louisville. Now, I know you got to go through Clemson. And that whole Notre Dame thing, which, I know why they do it. It all gets down to cash, right? I know why the conference does it. I just get so irritated by the whole Notre Dame thing. It makes me crazy. My wife's an alum there. But for these people to bend over backwards for Notre Dame, it makes me sick. They don't share any of the bowl money. They don't share any of that stuff. And they get everything good and nothing bad. They get to play the schedule against the ACC and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they split the gate receipts like every college team. It doesn't matter what you do. But they don't share any of their money with the rest of the conference, of their bowl money or TV money. They're Notre Dame. But it makes me sick. All right. Are we ready, boys?
I think we run through some picks here.
Let's go.
All right.
We got 15 minutes. Is this after or going in?
This is going in.
Going in. Okay, 2-point lead for Paul over Casey.
Yikes.
And an 11-point lead over yours truly. All right, let's go. I know the college game. I stunk it up.
This was bad.
Although I covered Utah.
Yeah, good call.
Utes.
Yep.
Utes, big one.
Good call.
Kyle Whittingham, leader of men.
All right.
That is a leader of men.
I should have stuck
That's
to my
one
guns.
note I wanted to say. If there's one team from the Pac-12 that most deserves from a style and toughness standpoint to play in the Big Ten, it is without a doubt Utah. They come at you to play, man. That's a good team.
Yep.
Move on.
Tough one here.
Losses across the board. Horned Frogs, phenomenal game. They're going to beat Michigan in the national semis. Go ahead.
This was tough because
we both were wanting to pick.
I've been fading TCU on the spread for like 6 straight weeks, and I finally flip, and it bites me. Oh well. Yeah. Oh well. All right.
Trace Fowler says he's at Purdue. Use a computer. I said he was at Purdue. Go ahead.
Toledo OU.
If Curtis woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a player of the year in the MAC. If Curtis Rourke plays in that game, OU beats Toledo by 4 touchdowns.
For sure.
So Georgia did not cover.
Yeah.
Did cover. Forgive me. All right. We all went across the board there.
Yeah. Finally, we're on the board.
Well, I was already on the board.
Yeah.
Purdue.
True.
We cover there, right?
No.
No, we don't.
I thought what was the final?
20. Purdue won. Michigan won by 21. Purdue was.
The last score
17.
I saw was 29-17.
No.
I didn't care about
43-22.
All right, go ahead.
All right, that's college. Here's the NFL.
1 p.m. Kirk Cousins.
I mean, literally 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. What do you have to do if you're the Minnesota Vikings to petition the NFL to get the Super Bowl moved to Maui? No joke. Because that's the only way they're winning the Super Bowl.
Hang on a second now. I mean, in theory, the Super Bowl this year is played in Phoenix.
So it's 3 p.m., but that's...
No. Well, what time does the game start?
6:30.
6. So actually, Arizona would be 2-hour spread instead of 3 at that time of the year. Arizona's one of the states that doesn't change time.
Oh, that's right.
So that would be a 4:30? Not good.
Not
okay.
good.
Well,
not
I was
good
thinking
for the
maybe
Vikings.
you buy one local time. All right, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
All right.
Eagles, I mean, I don't know how anybody says this isn't the best team in football. I mean, they have got it going on, man. This Jalen Hurts, for me right now, and they can talk about Mahomes, and they can talk about Burrow, they can talk about everybody we want to talk about. And I'm not saying that he's better than those guys. Hands down, most valuable player of the league.
Yeah.
Right now, not even close, and it should be unanimous. He's the best player on the best team, and he's getting better every week. This cat is unbelievable. And to think he was benched in college by Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Benched. Nick Saban, there's a leader of men. Although he was groveling over the weekend. All right, we thought the Broncos would cover. They did.
It was a good call.
Well, everybody except Paul.
Yeah, I wasn't buying the Broncos, and I guess I'm still not buying the Broncos, but
it's the Bravens, man. They just stink with Lamar, but now that they have Tyler Huntley, you might want to watch out.
Oh, this line was 8.5.
Yeah, it was 8.5.
Oh, what? It just dawned on you?
And you picked. Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised.
I mean, I still would have picked the rate. I thought it. Man, I'm looking at this. I thought it was 3.5, and I was the one that put it in.
I was gonna say you never pick big spreads.
Brutal.
Okay.
Whatever. I mean, they still wouldn't have covered 3.5, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, you benefited from
Trace the week before.
Trace anyway. Go ahead.
Browns Texans.
Browns stink, but
I knew I should have gone with the Browns.
You had the Browns too.
You
had the Browns too.
I'm telling you. I said I wasn't going to do it again the rest of this year, and go ahead.
All right. Two more.
Dumb. D-U-M. Dumb.
Dolphins,
they stunk it up.
We didn't have a great week. Morale is low.
Yeah.
49ers are good, man.
Yeah. Well, now what?
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, if
Purdy,
there's one coach
Baker?
out there with a style of play that they will adapt. Guy hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. He will one day. And Kyle Shanahan, this guy's style and their team's style of play is far more conducive to bringing in a guy to take over than, say, somebody like the Bengals. And you're going to have some guy to start slinging it around all the time, or the Bills, or it's a different kind of team. I think they might be all right.
Baker Mayfield just got released by the Panthers, so maybe they go pick him up. Kyle Shanahan said he likes Baker. Who knows?
There are things through the years that you can like about Baker.
All right, last one. We got it.
Bengals cover.
Outright, baby.
I still can't believe Kansas City's favorite. I mean, come on.
Outright.
Your guy's in Vegas.
All right.
Wise guy.
Here's the record.
All right. Trimmed a couple off that lead. Went from 11 down to 9. We're back in the hunt.
I got to go back and
back in the hunt. And Sir Boy Wonder, he said my record is about to look like the Reds. It's a good line. I love my guy, Sir Boy Wonder.
Oh, that was a good one.
I'm telling you, I'm right back in the hunt now.
I got to go look. I got to do the math on what my record was before college basketball season started and what it is since in the last 4 weeks. It has been rough the last few weeks.
You know, we got a lot of good bowl games that we're going to be picking.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really good matchups.
How are we going to do it since there's so many like midweek? Like, are we just gonna do like a bowl extravaganza next week and just pick every game before it starts?
Yes. So the day of game, we'll pick every game.
Oh, the day of the game.
Day of the game.
So
we're not in that way. We just stay up to speed. We can update them easily, that kind of thing, as we move on.
Okay,
All
that
right?
works. All right,
we'll do that.
All right.
Even the lesser bowls.
We're just gonna have. Well, the lesser bowls are the best bowls, Tom. You kidding me? You don't want to bet on the Wasabi Bowl?
Sir Boy Wonder strikes again. Says Paul needs to go pick up those Tom specials from Walgreens for his
brutal.
eyes. That's the truth.
I mean,
Sir Boy Wonder, they are for Walgreens specials. Although somebody said to me the other day, and it never dawned on me this because I drive by it every single day, they said they buy their cheaters at dollar stores. So rather than spending, $7, $8, $9 for these things, isn't everything at a dollar store basically in the dollar something range?
Depends on if you go to Dollar Tree or Dollar General, Tom.
What's the difference? Dollar
General is a ripoff. They can price gouge you. They might go up to $5 at Dollar General. Dollar Tree,
it's still
though,
less than what I'm paying now.
Dollar Tree, though, you're at $1.
Really?
I think they upped it to $1.25. There was outrage about that like a year ago. Yeah.
Well,
in this economy.
This economy.
Tell you, Sir Boy Wonder's got some good stuff. Anonymous says, Tom, I'm rooting for you for the Brennaman Bowl. Ohio State v. TCU.
That'd be a great colors game. Purple and the red.
Look, if you have no interest in rooting interest in, and look, when Ohio State hasn't been in there in the past, I've lost all interest. I don't even watch the games. I really don't in the Final Four. I didn't watch 2 minutes of Georgia, Alabama last year. I don't care. Makes no difference to me. Care less. Don't like either team. Actually, I'm oblivious to either team. They mean nothing to me. Good, bad, or indifferent. But now, I have rooting interest on two ways. But I will tell you this. If you're like me in past years where you really don't care or have any allegiance to any team, I'm telling you, do me a favor, okay? Just go watch the Max Duggan press conference, the quarterback of TCU, after they lost the Big 12 championship game on Sunday. It won't take you more than 10 minutes of your time. And if you are looking for a team to root for, that's the team to root for is TCU because of Max Duggan. This guy, he comes in there, not recruited, small town in Iowa. He is a starter for a couple of years. New coach comes in this year, makes him the backup to another guy. That guy gets hurt the first game of the year. So he had every reason in the world to transfer, to leave, to whine and moan, to complain, to all those things. He didn't. Took the high road. And he got the chance to play. And he's going to be in New York. He won't win the Heisman, but he's going to be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. And when you watch that press conference after they lost for the first time, this guy all of a sudden has gone from being a backup quarterback to being a top 2 round pick first or second round pick as a quarterback potentially in the NFL for this draft. He didn't know when they lost that game in the press conference the other day if his team was going to be in the college football playoff. There was a lot of debate about that. If they lost, would they get knocked out? And for him to only talk about his team and his school and his coaches and how much it meant for them to win that Big 12 title. If you're looking for somebody to root for, you're tired of the big dogs, right? You're tired of Georgia. You're tired of Ohio State. You're tired of Michigan and all the brands and everything else. TCU is for you. Who are you two clowns rooting for in the Final Four at this point?
I'm rooting for TCU.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm rooting for whoever wins that Michigan-TCU game.
You have got to be kidding me.
Just anything besides Ohio State.
Oh, my
Anything.
God. Oh, my
Anything.
Hey, there are a lot of articles going around today. Have you seen some of the big stories written about Jim Harbaugh? He was a league MVP. Many of you in the younger generation don't remember this. He was the most valuable player in the NFL as a quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. All of a sudden, Mr. Kravitz up there, big columnist, really tuned into everything going on. Harbaugh a year ago had said, I'm not leaving Michigan. But you know deep down somewhere in his heart, there has to be that yearning, that calling to go back to the NFL, where he was a great coach for the 49ers, took him to a Super Bowl. Would he leave Michigan to take over as head coach of the Indianapolis Colts at the end of this year? Just a thought. Just a thought. All right, do we have a cherry on top, or is that it? All of our takes today.
Yeah, run this one. It's the Joe Burrow press conference from yesterday in response to whatever his name was. Justin Reed?
Yeah.
Whatever
his name
whatever
is.
His
whatever
name
that
was.
guy, yeah.
Go ahead.
Didn't really care. I would have cared a lot more if he knew what he was talking about. Maybe he just hadn't been in the scouting report yet. I don't know. It is what it is.
Joe, what's the extra benefit of having a punishing record like Samaje in North-South as you progress?
All right, so that was it. His comments about
Yeah,
Reed.
yeah, that was
If he knew what he was talking about, read the scouting report, he'd make a big deal out of it. You don't have to make a big deal out of it when you win.
Let your play do the talking.
That's exactly right. All right, we got box lunch coming up.
We do.
We had big numbers here today. A lot of people watching, and they will be rolling right into box lunch. Trace Fowler, you were the guy that said the other day on Friday that you would not be surprised if Utah won in a rout over USC. And I'm trying to remember the other game. Did you say Kansas State beats TCU? Is that the one you said?
Yeah.
So you were spot on.
Been spot on about a lot of things, Tom. I don't know if anybody's paying attention or listening, but what else I tell everybody? Told everybody that all of you clowns that are now talking about, oh, the Buckeyes are back. The Buckeyes are back. I told all you clowns what was going to happen. I said, you need to stop the Ryan Day talk. Get over yourselves. Yeah, Michigan's dog walk you twice. I get it. But there's a good chance you get in the playoffs. In Ohio State, like it or not, I am trying to speak from a non-biased standpoint. Do I like Georgia? Yes. But the truth is that Ohio State can beat anybody in the country on any given day.
Sure.
And they can certainly beat Georgia. Now, do I think if they played Georgia 10 times, would Georgia win more? Yes, I do, but that's not how this goes, as they've proved before when they went and played Alabama back in 2014. So I've been right on a few things. I was right on something so much so. Tom, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
And I know the chats may know where I'm going with this. If you were offered an opportunity to go on a free trip or just pay your own way
to
Lawrence, Kansas to watch a basketball game, let's just say if you were a college basketball kind of guy, would you take that or not?
A free trip?
Well, you had to pony up to bet $350 on Utah, which is not something I was willing to do. He wanted
Put all this into context for me.
Trace said he said that we could bet $350 on Utah.
That's the wrong way of looking at this. You either paid for your own trip, which was about $350.
Yeah.
Or if Utah covered, it would be a free trip for you.
Yeah.
I'd have taken it.
Oh, I absolutely did not. And I'm fine with it. The first company raised parlay, I was very upset I did not get into. This one I'm fine with. I was not.
Why don't I ever know about these things?
Stick around for the box lunch.
Nobody wants me to come along on these trips.
Tom,
That'd be a hell of a lot of fun in Lawrence, Kansas.
Tom, actually, I mean, not that we're just saying this after the fact. I'm genuinely mean this. You're definitely invited if you're willing to make the trip.
Well, I would have made that bet. That
then
you're
in.
I would have made that bet on Utah. Although I got to tell you, Trace, at first I was watching that game because I really cared, wanted to see if Ohio State would get in. I went to a high school basketball game early in the night, and then I came back home. I turned on the TV. It's 17-3.
Right.
And, I mean, USC looks like USC, right? I mean, they got it going on. Williams is all over the place and wide receivers and blah, blah, blah. Their defense looked like they were going to play a game kind of like they had whoever it was in Notre Dame where they were at least, they were okay in that game. They've stunk the rest of the year. And then all of a sudden, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a chance to go up 24-3, and I think they go for it on a fourth down, which I would have done if I were Lincoln Riley. I'd have gone for it. And they don't get it. Williams gets hurt, hamstring injury, which you're saying is pretty serious injury, I guess, now. And I give the kid the credit. He played through it the rest of the game and made some unbelievable plays near the end. But the last three quarters, 44-7.
It's a 4-quarter game. At some point, I want the narrative to be for a Lincoln Riley team. At some point, someone needs to bring up the fact that this has not just happened once. Now it's happened twice.
Oh, it's been brought up.
When you play championship teams, you got to play for 4 quarters. 4 full quarters. And yes, I think from time to time Lincoln Riley teams can get hot, a la Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma. They jump out to a 24-3 lead, or I don't know. You can look back at the stats. But at the end of the day, they had to play Georgia in the second half of that football game, and their defense, time and time again, can't withstand 4 quarters of a team being physical. And Utah is a physical team.
Well, so, one of the big writers, I think, for The Athletic, or maybe it was ESPN.com, I don't know, covers college football, basically laid it all out there about Lincoln Riley. Said, I don't know if, and this was a writer saying, I don't know if it's the person they have running the defense. You can't say that because they've had multiple guys running the defenses all through the years of the places he's been, okay?
Yeah.
Whether it's the way they physically train their team from a strength standpoint, whether it's, and this is probably the one, the way they practice and getting their defense ready to play a physical tackling. I mean, it's the worst tackling team I've ever seen. The 2 or 3 times I've watched them this year, and just in the Utah game alone, they did a great job. ABC did of illustrating that, or Fox or whoever had the game, Fox, I think, illustrating that during the game, how they had missed, I think it was something like 18 tackles in the first game against Utah, and they missed like 27 tackles in this game. They couldn't tackle anybody.
Well, I give Sean Spurlock some credit here. He told me that he's seen – while watching the game, that USC had a linebacker that was 6 foot, 200 pounds.
Yeah, and they think he's going to be a great player. They talked a lot about him.
Well,
right.
My point is, at the end of the day, that isn't going to get it done.
No, it isn't.
When push comes to shove, and you have a physical game. So that's beside. Let's move past, as you've called it, the pillow fight out there in the pack.
Yes, pillow fight. Although I'm not going to say ever Utah is a pillow fight. I will never say that about Utah.
Well,
they are not a pillow fight.
You know what's funny about that whole situation is that Utah and Winningham specifically decided that he was going to go a little bit opposite of the approach that most of these Pac teams have gone with, to spread it out, be thin everywhere. He just said, you know what, I'm going to go opposite. And whether it works to perfection or doesn't, you certainly have to admire the fact that he has decided to make a physical approach to his football team. And more times than not, the past 2 years specifically, it's proven that wins games more often than the pretty spread it out and do what all these other programs do in the
This is
past.
where everybody, the most misunderstood guy from an offensive philosophy on the planet is Urban Meyer. Because, and this is where Whittingham was under Urban Meyer at Utah. Yeah. And go back and look. You made reference to the 2014 game where Ohio State beat Alabama. Okay? They beat Alabama by running the ball down their throat. Ezekiel Elliott in that game, I think, had like 240 rushing yards in that game. And the one big difference between the spread of Urban Meyer and the spread of Ryan Day is that Urban Meyer teams were a run-first team. That's what they were. Go look at the rushing numbers of all of those Ohio State teams or Florida teams when Tebow and all those guys were there, or Utah or Bowling Green. Whittingham's approach has been a lot like it was when Urban was there, where they'll spread it out on you. But their number one priority is between the tackles and running the ball. Power football.
That's fair. So I jumped to the first topic here real quick with you. Not to be devil's advocate with the Bengals, I think the Bengals are in a situation where they've proven that they belong at the top echelon of the league. They're a well-rounded football team. They don't really have any holes per se.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say while watching that football game yesterday it seemed as if they did get some breaks. Right?
They did.
Like there was a ball that, again, I'll get to this whole Mahomes bias thing down towards the end, but like Mahomes throws a ball yesterday that was just terrible. There was three Bengals defenders standing there, and they don't intercept that ball. Right? That's number one. The other thing I want to bring up really fast is like that everyone's all over Tyler Boyd, and although I do obviously think that would have been a huge, huge talking point if the Bengals didn't win, that was clearly a pick play they didn't call.
No doubt about it.
I mean, you have to be a little bit better if you're Jamar Chase if you do that again to act like you're running a damn route. Like you can't just run a slant and then just stand there like it's a screen in basketball. So they caught a break with that.
They caught a break, I thought, on the two penalties back to back. The roughing the passer penalty I thought was a little much, right? And that was on the heels of the one before it, where they called that guy and holding Jamar Chase, and I think was the pick, right?
The interception was iffy at best.
Yes, at best.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big play in the game.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, this isn't taking anything away from the Bengals. It's not saying that they got lucky or nothing like that. I think that they have proven, though, that they can make the playoffs, and when they get to the playoffs, they can beat almost anybody. I'm not ready to give them the distinction yet that they can beat a team like the Bills. I want to see that first. I want to see a team that just decides, you know what, we're going to hand it off 3 straight times and our quarterback can run at any given moment and be physical. You think that's the Titans? I'm not so sure that's the Titans, right?
Well, the last 2 weeks, 38 rushing yards against the Bengals for Henry, and then last week, yesterday, his lowest total of the year against Philadelphia. Didn't even get to 30 yards rushing.
Yeah, the Titans look like they're a sinking ship.
Yeah, they do. But you're right I'm with you on Buffalo all the way. Until you do it, and we don't know, because they haven't had to play him in a big game when Buffalo lost that heartbreaker last year to Kansas City.
Right.
But we brought up during the show, yesterday the Chiefs ran for 5.5 yards a carry.
I would ask you this. It's almost like the boogeyman thing. Like, as a Georgia fan, to use an analogy here really quickly to cross over the two sports, as a Georgia fan, I genuinely mean this. Ohio State is the only team. Now people think I'm being funny. Like literally the only team that can beat Georgia this year. The only team. I would say, is there a small chance that the Bengals would just love the concept of the Bills having to play the Chiefs again, and you would rather the Chiefs obviously win, right? Like that's kind of where I'm at with the whole situation. As a Georgia fan, if you said right now, pick any of the teams in the country to play a national championship against, and it has to be the top 4, yeah, you might say TCU, sure. Maybe you take them out of the ring. But like, I'd rather play Michigan as a Georgia fan, personally. Stylistically, they match up much better against Michigan than Ohio State.
Well, I'm betting right now that TCU beats Michigan.
I think that's...
And I don't say that from my heart. TCU is going to beat Michigan.
We'll see.
Okay.
But my point to the whole
beat
Bengals thing is, it's like, I don't want to say it's a waste, because that's not obviously a waste in the NFL. But this is kind of my point when I was talking about weeks past, is like, until we get to the playoffs, there's nothing else left for me.
That's right.
It really isn't. Like, could the Bengals not make the playoffs? Like, super slight chance, right? Like, more than likely the Bengals are going to win this division. Do we think that that's not?
I would think you're right.
So the only thing that's left at this point is, like, we're going to line it up when it means the most. It's going to be the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs. Is there anyone else that I'm missing here, fellas?
No. Ravens without Lamar for sure. Although, like you heard Brian Billick. I mean, there's some people that'll whisper in the back of a room, and Billick laid it out there. I mean, Lamar has not been good. And we hope he's not hurt, and you're never rooting for that. But he has not been good. Outside of a game here or a game there. It'll be interesting to see what they look like with this Huntley guy, because you heard Billick a minute ago. He believes that Huntley, and he has to do film work on each and every single Ravens game over the last 3 years, doing work for Ravens.com. He says watching last year as he was going through it, he thinks Huntley, while he can't run like Lamar, but who can, he thinks Huntley is a better thrower in the pocket. So what does that mean? I have no idea. What I do know is I let you go and kick it off to Box Lunch.
That's right.
It's a joke that Georgia's playing in Atlanta in the national semifinal.
That's the worst take you've had since you've been here.
It's a joke. No, it's not how it works. You have a choice of two different – I'm being serious, and I'm not saying it because it's Ohio State.
Tom.
You have – all of these things are set up years in advance, okay?
Yes.
Years in advance as to what two bowl games are going to be the national semifinal. I want somebody to tell me how you can logically say when you do have a choice, that is totally inaccurate, that you don't have a choice. You have 4 teams and 2 games and 2 destinations to play them in. If you wanted to be straight down the middle on everything with this deal, you would never allow the University of Georgia to play this national semifinal game in Atlanta, Georgia. That is a joke.
Well, here's how this works. The highest-ranked team gets to choose where they play their game at. That's how it's always been. That's how it will always be.
And that's a joke, too.
How is that a joke?
It's a joke.
Well, you know what else people would argue is a joke?
It's a joke.
You know what else people would argue is a joke? Is that the Big Ten, arguably, has maybe 3 good teams. Maybe 3 good teams.
Listen, you're now comparing apples and oranges.
No.
I am saying if you took a blank mural against a wall and you just started throwing darts and you landed on 4 teams and you know that you have 2 cities to play those games in.
But that's not how it works.
It is a joke.
You get to pick if
that
you're the higher
a team
seed.
gets to pick where they play, and especially make no mistake about it. This is a straight-up home game.
Not true.
For the
Tom, they get their allotment of tickets.
They do.
Are you trying to tell
that.
me? Are you trying to tell me right now that Ohio State's fan base is going to not go to the game?
I'm
They're not going to sell their tickets.
Are
they
going to
sell all their
But
tickets?
what I am
what are you
saying is the University of Georgia, if you spend time in Atlanta, unlike say
this is
Ohio
the worst
State.
take you've ever
Ohio
had.
State has alumni coast to coast everywhere. The SEC schools, and look, you can look up the stats for this. This is just a fact because I've had to do it looking into my college kids, or my kids going to college.
Yep.
Almost all of the alumni of SEC schools stay in that 5, 6, 7 state region when they go to work for a living. The amount of alumni alone in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the 5 largest cities in the United States of America, is a staggering. It's basically Athens, Georgia.
So what you're saying is that you're concerned that Ohio State can't do what Alabama did to Georgia last year.
Again,
Time out.
You're getting into arguments that I'm not making. You're dragging Ohio State into this. I'm not saying
what
this.
I'm saying is that it's not a big
no
deal.
team should be playing in the national semifinals. No team, or it shouldn't be. If it's part of the rules, that's fine, but it shouldn't be part of the rules because it's a joke.
Tom, I have
It's
a
a
question
joke.
for you then.
It's a joke. It's not like last year where the Rams made the Super Bowl and you had picked 5 years in advance you're going to play at SoFi Stadium. It's not like USC this year. You only have one site. That's the championship this year is the National College Championship this year is at SoFi Stadium. If USC would have made the playoff, okay, and they get to the championship game, God bless them. They're playing at SoFi Stadium. It's just it's insane to think in the Final Four that you have a team that is basically playing, and I'm not saying because they play Ohio State. I'd be saying the same thing if they played Michigan. I'd say the same thing. If this would have turned out where they played Michigan in the semi, no team should play a home game in the national semifinal.
All I'm trying to say is that Alabama has mopped the floor with Georgia twice in the building that you're complaining about. Second of all, at what point do you at least admit that there should be a somewhat of an advantage if you finish number one in the rankings over top of whoever else you play? It just so happened that this year it's the Peach Bowl that was years in advance. You can sit there and say no all you want, but the truth is that Ohio State
college
fans,
team deserves an advantage in the Final Four. None.
You should be.
And you win none.
You should be extremely grateful they're even in the position. Because at the end of the day, I think Ohio State could beat anyone in the country. This isn't a knock against the program and nothing at all. But it is a relative joke that Big Ten country has two teams in the playoff when each of those teams have played literally 2 games on their schedule. They've played 2 meaningful games.
Okay.
And I would argue that Penn State.
You say that, and I'm not disregarding what you're saying. If you say that, that's fine. And I'm not sitting here saying that you're wrong from top to bottom in that league. But at the same time, tell me another team that didn't make the playoff. Tell me another team that should be in the playoff. I don't care what conference they're from. You've been arguing all year long Alabama shouldn't be in. They're ranked They're ranked number 6.
Right.
There's no way you could say that USC should be in, not over Ohio State or Michigan.
Right.
There's no way. And again, I don't care what conference they're in, okay? There's no way you can say Tennessee should be in, okay? They just gave up 63 to South Carolina, and their potential Heisman Trophy winning quarterback is out for the year. So there's no way you can say they should be in. So you can't tell me there is another team. Pick Utah, Pac-12 champ. Pick Kansas State, Big 12 champ. You can't tell me another team that is not in the Final Four that should be in and replacing a team that's in the Final Four that should be out. There's not one there.
I'm not arguing.
So for you to say that the Big Ten has 2 teams and it's a shitty conference is irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant. The bottom line is 2 of the best 4 teams this year just happen to be in the Big Ten. And they're both playoff worthy based on their body of work during the year and because of what other teams did or didn't do. Alabama, no way. Tennessee, no way. Kansas State, 3 losses, had a great year. Out. SC, done. They got the best 4 deserving teams. End of story. Quit laughing over there. I got to go.
I mean, you can argue about it all you want. All I'm saying is the last thing I'm going to be doing is complaining about how bad the meal tastes at Thanksgiving when I haven't cooked the damn thing and I just walked in late. That's what Ohio State fans are doing if you're arguing about what building you're playing in. That's exactly what you're doing. No.
Hold on. You are saying that my argument is based, and I just said a second ago, it has nothing to do with being an Ohio State fan. That's not my argument. I would be saying the same thing if they play the school that I dislike the most, being Michigan. I would still say it's not right and it's not fair. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
So
and sorry for my language.
What did you cuss?
I dropped the S word.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I did. All right.
I don't know.
So.
Okay, I'll let you go.
My wife rubs off on me. She uses language like that, so I'm sorry.
You're right. Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Paul. All right, big boy, go get him.
All right.
Leader of men, Satterfield.
No.
Let's start there. Let's start there.
This is not going to be good.
We talked all last week. We talked all last week about how great of a job UC was, how it was probably the number one job outside of Auburn. I don't know if that was the case.
No. Clearly was not.
Clearly to some it wasn't. I still believe this. And you can take it. I'll take it. I'll go down with the ship, if you will. I said it from the time we started this whole thing. I'll say it until the end of time. Deion Sanders was and is the number one guy on everybody's list and should have been the number one guy on everybody's list. I'm afraid to say he wasn't number one on Mr. Cunningham's list because Cunningham, to a certain extent, must have had some guys that he liked. And I just can't believe that he got ultimately the true guy that he wanted. Maybe he wanted Hartline. Maybe he went hard after Hartline and didn't get it. I don't know who else he might have wanted, but at the end of the day, this can't be the guy that he ultimately wanted, right?
No.
Satterfield cannot be it. I see in the comments, yes, I see from time to time, you're talking about how maybe it's just a circumstance that he was under at Louisville, and that's why he's struggled. I say he's struggled there. Yeah, I guess he won a championship, or excuse me, the coach of the year there, not a championship, but a coach of the year there. But at the end of the day, this is the ACC, guys.
Yeah.
Paul,
yeah.
Casey, he's playing in a league that every single person in the country that watches college football says is horrible. It's the worst league of the Power 5 by far.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, I'm with you. And again, this goes back to what I said on Tom's show a little bit ago, where it seemed pretty clear that this was not the overall number one choice of what John Cunningham wanted. And it also feels like it came together pretty late from everything that we're kind of hearing about, what happened in the last 24 hours. You're starting to get this idea that it kind of came together, I don't want to say at the last minute, but kind of at the last minute. In the last 24 hours or so. And you keep looking at these hot boards. You keep looking at the coaches that are coming out. You're seeing Toledo, Kent State. What are we doing? You're not hiring a MAC guy. At least not if you think you are what you think you are. Doesn't make any sense.
No, you make a lot of sense, Paul. And there's no way this was the guy. There's just no way. This was a panic pick. They had to have someone by the time they said their deadline was, or else everyone was going to freak out.
Why did they put a deadline on themselves, by the way?
Portal open.
Why in the world would you tell everybody that you're going to have something in place by this date? At that point, it tells me that you might have had that already picked, right?
Those are the two logical things that you could come away with. That they either had the guy and they knew they were going to have their guy by that time, or
there's no way they were trying to make the fan base happy by saying they were going to have a guy by Sunday and they didn't have a guy. Maybe that's what there's no way. Maybe that's what they did, but I just cannot believe that as UC had what I would call a golden opportunity of trying to go and find a big, I would even say an opportunity to get your fan base extremely excited. Regardless of whether or not, and I'm not saying that's your only job. Clearly, Paul, I know you've made the reference and you keep saying it kind of not, I'm not saying you're doing it as a dig, but Deion still has to coach. He still has to go out and play. He still has to be able to call plays. He still has to be able to manage it. It's not just about the recruiting.
I'm not going to root against him.
Yeah,
I'll be watching it closely. It's just you got to, all right, he's there. He's got to coach it now. He's going to get the recruits. Do it.
Correct. And the transfer portal thing isn't the only thing that matters. It's not I know the recruiting rankings for Louisville. If you're a UC fan, you hang your hat on the fact that, hey, he's got a 19th ranked recruiting class at Louisville. But the people that bring up the whole NIL thing with this guy, hey, he really knows NIL really well, and that's one of his strengths. Newsflash, NIL isn't going to be the reason you're coming to Cincinnati. It's just not, guys. If you want to go make money and you're sought after and you're valued, kill me for saying it. Cincinnati is not the program. They will not be the program. It's almost one of those situations now where I said it before. I sent some screenshots the other day, and I know we probably, to be fair to you guys, we can't pull those up. But I sent some screenshots to the group chat the other day. Exactly what I said would happen is happening right now within the Cincinnati fan base. It's like they're going to turn on John Cunningham, and they're going to turn on all of the hires that he made because they don't like him specifically. So if West doesn't pick it up a little bit in the next year and a half, and or this coach doesn't come out, and I think this coach, quite frankly, Satterfield, is at a complete disadvantage. I've said that from all along. Like, everyone's thinking moving to the Big 12 is a huge, big deal. It is in the long term. In the short term right now, you have to take your AAC recruited kids and your brand new head coach and turn around and go play the likes of programs that are legit. You have to go play TCU. You have to go play Baylor, Kansas State. Texas and Oklahoma are still in the league for the next, 2 years? Like, this stuff isn't going to get easier. You don't get to play Temple anymore. You don't get to play, Tulane's had a good year. You know who's not on the schedule anymore? UConn or whoever the hell else you play. Like, those are gone. Those days are gone. And I get it. Maybe this guy turns out to be great, but I will never, for the life of me, not know why they couldn't get Jim Leonhard. If Deion wasn't number one, go get the guy that all of the Wisconsin fans are saying they love. At least that guy's been a part of a big-time program. Now, Satterfield at Louisville, I'm not saying that's not a big-time program, but what I am saying is it's in the ACC. And the ACC to me is like one notch above the AAC, right?
Right.
Like one letter is about the only thing that might be the difference between those two leagues.
Clemson goes to the SEC and the ACC becomes irrelevant.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that this is necessarily like a disaster hire. It could have gone worse if you get it could have gone a lot better. I think you're right. It could have gone a lot better. I don't think this is a program killing disaster because I think he's won. It's not like he's lost. I'd take Satterfield over Campbell.
Definitely.
I'd take Satterfield over Matt Campbell. Right?
I agree.
Okay.
I would agree on all those fronts.
Okay.
I'm not trying to kill Satterfield as much as I'm trying to say that
Cunningham's on the hot seat.
Yeah. As much as I'm trying to say that Cunningham is not in a good position right now. No. And I don't know if you're ever in a good position if your basketball and your football programs aren't doing well per se. But at the end of the day, I think UC fans or this whole fandom in Cincinnati expects a lot. They expect a lot. And I don't know if that's the realistic nature of where the program's going to be for the next few years because of the move that you're making. You're going to the Big 12, right? Like, for 2 years, I think we could argue that Cincinnati and Cincinnati football, you could say, was a part of the national scene. Obviously, they made the CFP. But I'm saying, like, you could argue that they could play with anybody in the country. And this past year, that was not the case. This past year's UC football team playing in the Big 12 or – now, the SEC is a hard one because that's probably not fair. But they're a 500 football team at best. At best.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I'll say this about him as well. I mean, Louisville, out of all those teams in the AAC, is probably the worst football team in that conference. Probably. One of the worst. They're a basketball team.
In the ACC? No, they're not the worst team in the ACC.
They are one of the worst, is what I said. They are one of the worst, and that you can't argue with me. They had Lamar Jackson for 4 years, and that's probably about as relevant as they've ever been.
Well, that would be an argument for Satterfield then, right? Like at the end of the day, it's not like Satterfield took Ohio State now that they're winning 2 games a year. At the end of I'm not going to crush Satterfield. He might be a good hire. I'm just saying, don't come crying to me. And I know I don't know if Mo's doing it as a bit. Some of these UC fans are doing it as a bit, like, oh yeah, like we could have had Deion, that was fun, blah blah blah. Like, no, like you should have had Deion.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, you should have gotten Deion. Deion, I think in my heart of hearts would have taken this job over Colorado if you went after him the way you should have, but you didn't. And at the end of the day, maybe you thought you had another guy that was better than Deion, and that didn't pan out. But now we rush higher. And sometimes, listen, sometimes like, the best gifts obviously are like unanswered prayers. Thank God for unanswered prayers. Song about it. Look it up. But maybe that's the case. Like maybe Satterfield becomes a guy. I just don't love it. I'm ready to move on.
All right.
Poor Paul. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, Paul.
No, it's all right.
But this is going to be a bad week for you, isn't it? Like, it's going to be a tough week. You don't think so? You don't think so?
Look, I'm not like going to go on. I don't feel badly at all about the bet because it was just way too much money. No, I don't need to go on about it. I don't feel the first one I felt terrible. The first one I felt really I was in a bad spot after that first one when I realized that you weren't messing around. This one, like, I'm fine with.
You know where that extra $350 could have come from?
Where?
That first bet.
It could have. I know. That's what's sad. That's what's sad. That's part of it too. That's part of it.
Paul, but you were in until like the very last second. That's what's tough.
I was.
That's what's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
And then you drop. And then today you tell me that Xavier's only going to be like a 1 or 2 point favorite against UC. That makes no sense.
Ken Palm's got it as a 2-point spread right now.
That is.
They actually. What's funny is I was looking at it over the weekend. Xavier they had a 57% chance to beat West Virginia. Ken Palm does, that's how they do it. They list the spread and then the chance.
Right.
Xavier had a 57% chance to beat West Virginia.
Yep.
They have a 57% chance to beat Cincinnati.
Wow.
It's wild.
That's kind of wild.
I don't know, man. And there could be something to the idea that
now Ken Palm puts a lot of stock in playing on the road, and and they don't take injuries into account, like Rob Finney being hurt.
I don't think that matters.
Well, an extra defender, like he's not a great offensive. He's not giving you anything on offense, but defensively, give you at least a few serviceable minutes. So yeah, I don't know.
UC is going to be one of those like really, really streaky teams throughout the year. They're gonna win some games they maybe shouldn't, lose some games they shouldn't. But
and again, here's the thing: it
comes down to hitting threes.
Like Cincinnati, they've scored 80+ points in 6 of their 9 games. So that's a recipe for beating Xavier. You're going to hit your outside shots, and they don't shoot it great, 34.5%, but that's also balanced out by some games where they literally couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But they made 17 threes against Arizona. So it's like,
right.
They do that in a rivalry game at home.
Yeah.
This is not the layup that like everybody around the city seems to think it is.
I got to be honest. I watched both teams, and I think that I think that Xavier is just a much, much, much better team.
They are.
And sure, yes, I get what you're going at. You're trying to say that in one game situation anything can happen, but I'm just saying like just the optics of that do not make it look like it should be a 2-point spread. I like that AJ's here. Let's talk AJ just for a half a second. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on you. AJ in the chat last week was just completely talking about how we're wasting our time. Utah was going to get smoked. TCU was going to win. And now he's telling me that Deion Sanders was just a terrible, terrible decision. If anything, AJ, you have just confirmed, signed, sealed, delivered that Deion is a dude. I don't know what you got against Deion. Maybe there's some kind of insecurity there. I don't know what the insecurity could be or should be, but don't come crying back to me when Deion is out there doing his thing and becomes one of the premier programs or gets a job at a premier program after he builds Colorado up to whatever he builds it to. So, and the beautiful thing about Deion's situation really quickly is you can't say it's a product of circumstance with Deion. He's going to arguably the worst Power 5 school. Well, that's probably a strong statement, but he's not at a good school, right? Can we all agree that if he wins at Colorado, that he's done it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because Colorado. Yeah. No,
Colorado's
you're right. Yeah. 100%.
That's like going to the Lions and winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Lions, I don't know. Let's jump on to the NFL. Let's jump on to the NFL playoffs. So let's play a little fun little game. I was thinking about this today.
Do you want the graphic at all? Or?
That graphic's bad. We need to we need to crop that thing down so I don't have a seizure next time I look at that graphic. You can pick it up there for just a few seconds. So
I'll crop it to the
crop it down so I can read it normally.
Okay.
Here's my thing about the playoffs. I think that the top level teams are set in stone, right? You have in the NFC guys, you have in all honesty, the Cowboys. And then the Eagles. Is there anyone else that I'm missing here? I don't believe in anyone else. The Niners. But their quarterback, I'm going to say the Niners still. The Niners are one of those teams that seems as if no matter what happens to them, it's just next man up and they figure it out. But
could the Vikings potentially lose and get a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday?
I'm going to tell you right now. You know who's going to put that whole thing to bed?
Who?
The Lions this week.
Are they playing 1 o'clock?
They play them at 1 o'clock.
Oh, baby.
The Lions.
Unstoppable force, immovable object.
The Lions, I'm telling you, they are going to be the team that takes Kirk Cousins at 1 o'clock and puts it in a grave. All right, I can't wait for it. I have a question, though, for the chat. You guys, let's have some fun here really quickly. Long shots, also another smart bet that I made. You know how you hedge a Harbaugh?
Yeah.
Incredibly intelligent bet I made when not only did I go over there and bet on the Utes with basically the whole entire company's raise in line, but I also put $125 on the Buckeyes to win the national championship, plus 1,000.
Oh man, you got it back up?
I got it at plus 1,000.
How'd you get it?
That was right before the USC game on Friday. Obviously, when USC lost, boom, tanked.
Well, yeah, but it was at 800 when we were in the office on Friday.
I don't know. All I know is I got it at plus 1,000. It was at 1,400 when I really wanted it, but whatever. It's beside the point. I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. Having said that, what is the Ohio State of the NFL playoffs? Who's the long shot team that might have a chance to get in, and if they get in, they can win? Paul, do me a favor. Pull up the NFL Super Bowl odds really fast. In the chat, you can't give me the Bills. You can't give me the Bengals. You can't give me the Chiefs. You can't give me the Cowboys and or the Eagles.
All right, I got them.
Anyone that's over 100 to 1 odds.
Let me see here. All right, I'll give you the two teams at 100 to 1.
Yep.
The Jets and the Commanders.
I'm out on both of those guys.
Okay. 130 to 1. The Pats and the Browns.
Oh, there's the Brownies again. There's those Brownies again. There's those Brownies again. I told myself I wasn't going to bring the Browns up today, baby, but they are lurking in the weeds. I'm going to tell you. They are lurking in the weeds.
You can't seriously think, after watching Deshaun,
are we doing this again?
Sunday,
are we doing this
that
again?
They have a legitimate
Go
chance.
ahead and put yourself on the camera, Casey.
You can't seriously. I'll give you their defense is decent.
Hey, Casey.
But their offense sucks.
I'm not willing to do this for another 6 days.
We're not going to go deep into the weeds on this one today.
I don't have the stamina.
Not on today. But I do want you to switch the camera over there. And I want you to look right at that camera. And I want you to tell me that the Browns still stink. Do you think that's the case?
The Browns still stink. With Deshaun Watson, they stink. Now, Jacoby Brissett is a different conversation. They might have a chance.
Come on, Chris. The Browns don't have a predator at quarterback. They just got the massage boy. All right? Guy likes massages. It's not,
Man.
massage boy's back at quarterback.
Massage boy.
I truly think if Massage Boy can figure it out.
Did you see that ridiculous report that Adam Schefter put out where they said that he was making progress on his recovery? Deshaun Watson.
What?
Schefter put out like a prop piece on Deshaun Watson and how he was like making progress in his road back. And all the replies were, it's not that hard to not just ask for a certain ending to a massage.
That's good.
Like, what kind of progress are we making?
Hey, I have nothing for that. I'm not saying that I'm here. I'm defending Massage Boy. All I'm saying is that Massage Boy might be able to figure it out. He might get hot. The Browns could get hot. They could sneak in the back end of the playoffs. The other thing is, Paul, what
Spirit Cat?
Spirit Cat with the win.
Positive.
Spirit Cat's funny, man.
Go ahead.
That's funny, Spirit Cat. I'll tell you right now.
What were you
That's
gonna
funny.
ask
I don't
me?
care who you are. That's funny. What's the Lions odds? Okay, do you have the odds?
Lions are 200 to 1
to make the playoffs.
No, to win the Super Bowl.
Do they have a make the playoffs?
They should. It's past 10 o'clock. They should.
Do we have a make the playoffs?
Yeah, they do.
All right, chat. We might do a poll here. We need a Chatterbox bet. Okay.
I got the Lions.
Let's go down the list and find our best value here.
Okay.
What do you want?
Our best value to make the playoffs.
Wait.
Start with the worst odds.
Wait till we go through it. Okay. Well, it's not. It's listed by team, so I'd have to scroll through.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go through the teams then.
All right. Seahawks minus 400.
Seahawks minus 400.
Jets are even money to make the playoffs.
I think the Jets are bad. I don't think the Jets win
bad or back.
Bad. B-A-D.
Okay.
I don't know if the Jets. You guys are gonna laugh when I say this. I don't know if the Jets win more than one game the rest of the year.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna
laugh at that.
Yeah. Like if you look at their schedule, the Jets are not good.
Just laughing. Spirit Cat. 49ers minus 1,400 to make the playoffs. Yep. Rams plus 5,000 to make the playoffs. Broncos plus 10,000. Bucks minus 400. Chargers plus 140. Packers plus 1,100 to sneak in there. Packers plus 1,100 to sneak in.
What's the?
I don't know what their schedule is.
I'll pull up their schedule while you. That's tough, man. The Packers are just not very good.
They play the Rams, which they stink. Dolphins, Vikings, and Lions.
Yep, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings, Lions.
I mean,
I don't know if they have one more win on their schedule. That's not going to get you in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, no, it's not.
No.
If Rodgers turns into
Stop with the Rodgers stuff. He's not that guy.
Not that guy anymore.
I really don't.
You're
think
not
he's
that guy, pal.
Can we get the? Can we get the odds? I don't know, Casey. Are you able to just go to the whatever site he's on really fast? Put him up there, and I want the chat. Chat, we need one bet. We're gonna take one team that we're riding to the playoffs. And honestly, a good bet's a good bet, guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? If it's minus 200, and we think there's no doubt they're making the playoffs, then let's lay it. Let's lay the money. Ain't no problem with that.
We got it.
It doesn't have to be this super long shot every time.
We got it.
But I don't see it with the Packers. Packers are, man, nothing made me happier than yesterday. By the way, I'll tell you who's gone into the dark. Casey, Paul, you know who's gone in the dark?
Who?
All these people in the chat, all of these Justin Fields haters, or not haters, lovers.
Oh.
Boy, is that guy, he's like Jay Cutler. There must be something in the water in Chicago because there's nothing more for sure as a Packers fan than when Justin Fields gets the ball in a crunch situation or Jay Cutler, they like throwing the ball to the other team.
It's Stockholm Syndrome.
Love it. Anyways, I'll move on. Golly, Justin Fields is terrible.
He's still working out the kinks.
Are you going to throw that up there? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
All right, chat. Let's find a way here. This is to make the playoffs.
I'm looking. I don't. Raiders? No. Lions plus 700.
What's the Bengals?
They're probably not even offered, right? Or they'll be offered. I don't see them. Where are they?
God, Robbie's right.
Maybe they're not.
Robbie's
offered.
got a good point with the Steelers too, man. God, the Steelers, they're just a weird team. Every time you think the Steelers are dead, they just keep winning these ugly games.
That's how they've always been. Chargers? What are the Chargers?
Ooh, we got a lot of Chargers guys.
Chargers
How
are
the
plus
Chargers? They're
140.
so
Chargers are
hurt.
plus 140. I feel like I hate taking futures less than like plus 500.
I know. It feels
My
like
money
you're-
just gets locked up, and I'm just sitting there on my hands waiting on that. It's either cash or not. I remember I had the Lakers to win the bubble title, and they were it was like some boost that DraftKings offered, and you knew the Lakers were going to win, and I just sat on that waiting for it to cash for like 3 months.
Listen, hang on. Can we talk? So, if you really believe in the Lions, have you looked at their schedule?
I'll look at their schedule right now. I mean, obviously you have it up, but
they play the Vikings. If they can beat the Vikings, and
they're going to beat the Vikings. I'm telling you, they're going to beat the Vikings.
They go and play the Jets, which the Jets we don't believe in.
Beating the Jets.
They go to the Panthers. They stink.
Bears and Packers, baby. Can we win out?
You don't like Justin Fields and the Bears, and they've already beat the Bears once.
The Bears.
And then they play Aaron Rodgers again. There's a chance.
All right, fellas.
There's a true chance for the
What's
Lions.
the Lions' odds to make the playoffs?
Plus 700.
Let me pull it back up. The Lions are plus 700.
What do we got to do to make the playoffs? We got to get to 10 wins, 9 wins?
Yeah, they got to pretty much win out from here. They are at 5-7. They might be
9 wins. Does 9 wins get us in, chat?
In the NFC, it might.
It just depends on how much the Giants and the Washington Wizards beat each other up.
True.
9. I think the Lions can get the 9 wins. I really do. Will they get to 9 wins? That's the question of the day. I don't think they get to 10 wins. I don't think they win out. That's just too hard in the NFL, man. It's just going to be one random week. I think they do beat the Vikings this week, though. They're playing really, really well, and the Vikings, quite frankly, are not playing all that great. If Sir Boy's saying 9 wins, it gets us in. I'm taking. All right, the Lions. Who else we got, chat? Give me one other team.
You want me to pull up the website again?
Let's play one from the NFC, one from the AFC, and I'm gonna say right now we're doing Lions. We're doing Lions in the NFC, so that takes the Commanders out of it. What's the Bengals' odds?
They're not listed.
Damn. Hey, you want to hear something else? It's kind of. I'm gonna throw Reed a little bit under a bus right here. You remember Reed? You remember Reed's bet?
No.
Oh, Reed hedged the heart. Reed Mouse didn't have any belief in his Cincinnati Bengals that he decided he was going to put a bet on them not making the playoffs.
What?
Wow.
Tough.
Throw him under the bus.
Tough.
That's brutal. I didn't know he did that.
Reed Mouse lost money. Threw it in the trash.
Wow. Lost respect for him just now.
Lit
That's
it
terrible.
on fire. Follower of men.
There's not an AFC team on here that I really like. There's not one.
Sean's saying the Lions have to win out. If the Lions have to win out, that's tough.
I was trying to do the picker here and see if they really do need to win every single one of them.
All right, guys. AFC. I need the chat. Lock it in on the AFC. We need one.
I mean, my bet would be the Chargers, but it's only at plus 140.
Yeah.
Jets.
Plus,
Boom
it's at
shakalaka's
least
on the
it's plus
Jets.
money.
Can you parlay them? Is that a
I
hope?
don't
No,
think
parlays,
so.
Parlays only work if everything hits, and the chances of you being able to like string together multiple teams that are going to make the playoffs within that can't be it. Maybe you can. Maybe
I don't
doubt
think
it.
you're allowed to.
I doubt it. Raiders? What's the Raiders? I got to pull up the Raiders now.
The Raiders are plus 700 as well.
Same as the Lions.
All right. What's the Raiders have to do?
They have to also probably win out, right? I mean,
I feel like if you're plus 700, you probably have to win out. I don't know, though. I haven't looked at the schedule.
I'm going to pull up the standings right now just so I don't look like a buffoon.
so
when I say
they play the Rams. Then they play the Patriots.
I have a wild one.
They play Pittsburgh.
Is there any chance Is there any chance that you guys are gonna laugh at
Do it.
Is there any chance the Jags can get hot and catch the Titans?
I
mean,
no. Trevor Lawrence is done.
No, he's not.
The Raiders still got to play Kansas City again.
The Jags are the Titans. You ready for the Titans schedule the rest of the way out?
The Lions can actually get in with a 9-8 record.
They got to play the Jags this week, okay? This isn't the best argument, but I'm going to do my best. They got to play the Jags this week. If the Jags can beat the Titans, okay, they're 2 games back. The Titans then have to go play at the Chargers. I'd argue that they're going to be the underdogs there, right?
Hang on, the Titans got to play the Chargers?
Yes.
Okay, so you're thinking the Chargers will win.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. They do play the Texans at home, which is an automatic win. That's the tough part. Okay, listen to me.
Yep.
Then they play the Cowboys, and then they got to play the Jags again. So if the Jags sweep them, okay, there's 2 of your 3 games back, and then they have to win a game when they play the Texans and or the Cowboys and the Chargers. They got to win 2 or 3 of those games. Then they would tie for the division, and then they would have the tiebreaker for the division. Just saying.
I'm looking at it right now. So they
saying.
lose to the Jags twice, and they lose to the Chargers and the Cowboys, and that could get them in.
100% gets them in if all that happens.
That's a possible. I don't mind that, but that means the Jaguars got to win out, right? So they got to beat.
No,
the
I think they
Titans
can lose
twice.
one other game. They can lose one other game.
I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and they can lose to the Jets or the Texans, and yes, so they would get in with an 8-9 record.
Sean, I'll tell you what, Sean's making me like the Lions more and more. He's saying it's a joke that they're at plus 700. You know, this is the same guy that told me, Sean, that the Lions were going to win a game for the rest of the year. So
I like the Lions and I like the Jags if they can beat the Titans this week. If they don't beat the Titans this week, I think that dream is dead and gone, right?
It is, but I mean, what's the last question? What's the Jags plus what?
700.
Oh God, we're taking 2.
Or I'm sorry, they're plus 900.
Oof.
I like the Jaguars odds more than the Raiders odds because they still got to play Chiefs.
All right, let's do it.
Lions and the Jaguars.
AJ said the Broncos. This AJ can't be serious.
No.
Hey, we've obviously heard this bit before, but do we think Russell Wilson throws more touchdowns this year than the bathrooms that he has in his house?
Oh man.
I mean, did he throw one last week?
No.
How many touchdowns has he thrown?
8.
And he's got what, 12?
12.
I don't know, man. That's not looking good.
Is there going to be a worse contract in the history of football than the deal that they made to get him?
I'm not very good at. I'm not a football historian.
Yeah, me neither. But
so I don't want to say so for sure.
That has to be the worst. That has to be the worst. You can't possibly trade that much draft capital and pay a guy that much money and him come in and you be like 10-1 as a football team if the person that you spent all that money and draft capital on would have scored you 18 points.
Yeah, that's the craziest stat. Literally all they had to do was score 18 points, and we're talking about them vying for number 1 seed.
They have 2 losses this year if they score 18 points.
That's embarrassing. That's so bad. That is so bad.
Could you imagine if you live in Denver and you – it's one thing for us to talk about it and laugh about it. Could you imagine if this was your guys' fan – like this was your team and you had to watch that every week? It's one thing losing. It's a whole nother thing losing and then losing close and losing when your offense, which is the most fun thing more than likely to watch when you're watching a game, is the offense, to just be abysmal. Like, that's got to be like,
yeah.
Like, if you do a petty crime in Denver right now, you get a speeding ticket, then you should be able to go back and, like, pull out your receipts that you watch the Broncos play and get off. Like, maybe even petty crimes, like stealing some bubble gum in the gas station store. You shouldn't have to serve time, or you shouldn't have to do anything if you watch those Broncos games. Like, they should pull you into a room and make you watch the Broncos. Yeah. It's tough. That's how bad it is out there.
All right, Mahomes?
Here's my thing with Mahomes. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I really think that the bias that this man gets is at an all-time high. It's one of the most absurd things that he doesn't get any disrespect. This guy doesn't get anybody calling him out when he struggles. And it's not like I'm just saying, like, oh, it's just been this one time. Like, okay, yeah, now he's 0-3 against Joe Burrow. And I guarantee you towards the end of the year, they're going to be talking about how is Joe Burrow on the same level as Patrick Mahomes. It's like, when does the narrative, when does this whole thing flip? When do we call him out for throwing jackpot balls to 3 Bengals defensive backs? What other elite quarterbacks are doing that?
Right.
Like, those balls that he throws sometimes are horrendous. And the next thing I'm going to say is, you kind of seen it the other night. The Bengals did an amazing job at doing a thing that nobody wants to talk about when it comes to guys that can move and get outside of a pocket. They stayed within their rushing lanes. They made sure that they didn't allow him to get outside the pocket and do the things that everybody, oohs and ahs over, right? And when they did that and they forced him to stay within inside the framework of the play, he's not elite.
Right. That's what I've been hammering on this table for a couple months now. He's not great. He's not elite within structure. Once he gets outside the pocket and he's able to move around, run around, he makes a touchdown. He's called Michael Jordan of the sport, which, God,
you are
that is
set on that take, Casey.
I am so pissed off at Romo. He's
Casey.
just terrible. He is the biggest supporter of Patrick Mahomes, and he had a terrible game against the Bengals. And he couldn't even remember Joe Burrow's name. He's like, oh, the Bengals quarterback. I mean, dude, his name is Joe Burrow. Get it through your thick skull, dude. He's beat him 3 times in a row. When are you going to start giving the Bengals respect that they deserve? Come on. It's terrible.
I love it. I'll tell you why. Because I have been on this whole, and everyone thinks it's a shtick in the office, and sometimes it is a shtick. Listen, Patrick Mahomes is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. Let's not say he's great until he does it at least one more time at the highest of levels. Like, let him go into the playoffs, and yeah, I guess to a certain extent you could say he did it against not Baltimore, my gosh, the Buffalo Bills last year. I give him a little bit of credit, and maybe I am a little too harsh on him from time to time. Yes, when I start to make this argument, you can go back and be like, well, what about this? Yes, all I'm saying is he hasn't invented hardly anything in this league that we haven't seen before. Okay, the no-look passes, Matt Stafford was doing that shit years before Patrick Mahomes was doing it. Never got credit for it. Why? Because he played for the Lions. No one wanted to talk about the Lions. No one wanted to talk about how good Matt Stafford was when he played for the Lions. Because he played for the Lions. I get it. You don't get recognition. But has there been anyone in the history of the league been put up and set up with a better situation coming into the league than Patrick Mahomes? Okay? He sat behind Alex Smith. He then got thrusted into an offense that already had been a pretty thriving offense the couple years before he got there with Alex Smith, mind you. Has Tyreek Hill, who I think is an elite playmaker, one of the best wide receivers and playmakers in the entire league, and you can put him right up there with Chase. You can put him right up there with Justin Jefferson. You can put him right up there with anybody. He's a game changer. And then on top of that, you give him one of the best tight ends this game has ever seen in Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
and it's not like he doesn't have any other weapons that aren't any good.
Yeah, don't forget, he had Kareem Hunt, who was a top 5 running back for a couple years before his incident. I mean, the dude literally had a perfect setup. And since that time, since he lost a elite running game, since he lost Tyreek Hill, I mean, I get he's been putting up some serious numbers, but as soon as he faced a defense that knows how to cover him, he looked pedestrian. He only had like 100-something yards.
You're preaching to the choir, Casey, because the other thing that I noticed yesterday was that as soon as those little legs, and I've said this about Justin Fields, I say this about all the quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? If the wheels, if your number one thing that you're known for is your legs as a quarterback, you're not that guy. You're just not. Go through the history of the football. Go through the history of the National Football League and show me quarterbacks that were elite Hall of Famers, won Super Bowls time and time again. You show me a guy where you're like, yep, the number one thing about that guy is that he can run, he can scramble, he can get out of the pocket and make a play. Nobody. Manning wasn't that way. Breeze wasn't that way. Brady sure as hell wasn't that way. Montana wasn't that way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the closest one was Montana, and he was great in structure. He had a great offense. I don't know.
The one thing I'm going to say, I'm not going to try to kill our chat. The chat's trying to get on this notion that Mahomes' little scramble where he reached the ball towards the goal line was a fumble. That was a touchdown.
That was a touchdown.
That was a touchdown, guys. Let's not act like that wasn't a touchdown. That was a touchdown, and that's okay. Like the whole idea that there's a couple parts of that game where the Bengals caught a break, and that's okay because you know what? You're going to catch breaks if you play in this league long enough, and I'm not gonna crush the Bengals for taking advantage of those breaks either. Like the Tyler Boyd drop, I do think it was pass interference on Chase. I also think that the pass interference where Burrow threw the interception, they called it pass interference. I thought that was a little light. That was kind of weak. But I'm not you there's a million plays in a game. You can't like go through and pick out 2 or 3 of them and say it's going to change the entire complexity of the game. I do like taking points when I'm up on when I'm winning a football game at home. Like, I know everyone's complaining about the whole, like, sweep play, this, that, and the other. I know Tom gets on that bit, whatever. Like, if that would have worked the end around, Tom would have never said nothing about it. Tom's complaining that they went for it on 4th down, or they didn't go for it on 4th down in the Ohio State game. Well, they drew up a perfect fake punt, and the players didn't execute it. Sometimes players have to execute plays. And to be fair, I would say on that play as well, Dunlop made an incredible play, too. Yeah. Like, you got to give the opposing team sometimes the credit. Like, they made the play. Good for them. So, but I just want to take points. Like, am I the only stand anymore for kicking field goals? Like, at some point, just take 3 points. In my case in point yesterday, like, and maybe the game's changing because the Bengals have 3 more points or not. But, like, at the end of the game yesterday, right, the Bengals were trying to close the game out. If they don't get that 3rd down, 3rd and 11, what was that play?
3rd and 11.
If they don't get that 3rd and 11, what happens?
They probably kick a field goal.
They kick a field goal. They go up by what?
6.
6.
Could have gone up by 9.
That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying it works every single time, but quit acting like field goals are irrelevant anymore. Like, it's okay to kick a damn field goal, especially this is where I have it, especially part to this. If it was 3rd and inches and you didn't get it to play before. Like, if it was 3rd and 12 and you ripped off a run and you feel like you have momentum and you're like, rush everybody up to the line and let's do a quick QB sneak, sure. That's a hell of a lot different to me than you just got stuffed on the play before. Let's try to do this again. Because they did the same thing, if you don't remember, on the Chiefs game at home at the regular season the entire year before.
Yeah.
It just so happened they got a penalty on that what was it? It was defensive holding or whatever.
Yep.
So they got an automatic 1st down and they finished the game out. It's just like kicking field goals at some point is going to become, at least, I would hope, a thought.
Yeah, I mean, that specifically, I wanted them to try to score. I wanted them to try to get up early. But in retrospect, you look at the championship game, and the exact same thing happened with the Chiefs. They tried to go for the touchdown instead of taking the points, which would have made a huge difference in the game, changes momentum in the game.
That was at the end of the half.
Going into the end of the half. It's the exact same scenario.
Yes.
And so to me, I wish that we would have just took the points after retrospectively looking at it, because you're making the same mistake against the team that you beat in the championship round. I mean, just a lot of game script, very similar game, honestly, if you go back and look at it. Same score, too. So it's, yeah, I mean.
Momentum is it? Do you guys believe in momentum a whole lot? This is a genuine question.
I
believe in momentum. I do genuinely believe that if you try to go for it and you don't get it, that it's not just on paper that the ball's at this yard line and the other team gets the ball. Like, there is some mojo that comes with that. Like, and in case in point, quite frankly, the USC-Utah game had that very much same feel. Everything was going bad for Utah, not going well. USC had all the momentum in the world. I don't know, Paul, you might not have seen it because you were calling your game or whatever, but it's like, it's 4th and 6 or 7. Now, they were in quote-unquote no man's land. They go for it, don't get it. Utah turns around and goes right down the field and scores.
USC went for it?
USC went for it. I'm sorry if I said Utah. But USC goes for it. They don't get it. Utah gets the ball, goes right down the field and scores. It's like a 4-point game. Everything feels like it's A-OK again. If they punt, get the ball down inside the 5 or 10-yard line, you got to make Utah go all the way down the field and drive to score. It's just a different thing, man. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm in the minority.
You would be. I think you would be in a minority with momentum being a big factor. I've had this conversation with lots of different people before, but my dad and I, we are huge believers in momentum, and some teams are just really good at taking momentum, and we took back momentum with the forced fumble. That's just like a really good point in the game that just kind of they were driving downfield, they're getting ready to score again, and it was 24-20. If you don't rip that ball out, I think we probably lose that game, more than likely, because the following events that happen after that, we go down there, score a touchdown, stop them, they miss a field goal, we drive down, in the game. So people that don't believe in momentum, to me, are just kind of they're too, I don't want to say analytical, or they're too meticulous, and
they're not completely on the same page as the people that don't believe in jinxes.
Right.
But they're kind of the same mold.
Which I believe in jinxes too. So
I mean, jinxes is a far stretch comparatively speaking to momentum. I will completely admit momentum's a real thing. I think oftentimes you just take the points just to keep the momentum, and you keep feeling like you got something that you deserved, right?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine driving 80, 90 yards in a football game and then getting nothing for it? Which happens
a lot now.
There's something about that. All right. Here's the funny thing I put on here, guys. I'm going to be honest, though. I put Reds Fest on here. And I put it on here largely because I was running out of topics. I didn't have much to talk about. So Reds Fest, quite frankly, is that it just happened. And that's all I got.
That's it. All right.
Right.
Well, how was your guess? How did you ever? Can't remember his name. That's
Nick?
really sad.
Nick?
Yeah, Nick. How, did you ever get back with him? How was his time? Could you recap?
Yeah, Nick. I'm excited for Nick. I'm not going to spill the beans quite yet, but Nick Kirby, who was on here on Friday, big Reds guy, been grinding with the Reds for quite some time. I am a believer in optimism, though. Like, as much as I may be kind of funny from time to time about the Reds being bad, this, that, and the other, I think there needs to be, and again, like, this may be where funny people think that oh, Trace, you're being like really goofy when you say this. I do think the Reds fans have to we have to turn our focus to being optimistic about the franchise. You can't just dwell on the fact that we've been terrible for so long, because all it does is just make you feel. It makes you feel worse, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help anything in regards to the franchise itself, right? So at some point, you have to try to find the things that are fun.
Yep.
What's up, Casey?
He's in the chat.
Nick's in the
Nick's
chat.
in the chat.
Says Reds Fest was great.
Great. So I believe that at some point you got to try to reverse the momentum, if you will, of the franchise. And I do believe in talking things into existence. I really do believe that. And if you don't believe me, like maybe I know that this is where like everyone chuckle, laugh, laugh. I don't know if anybody has proven that more than LeVar Ball. Like LeVar Ball has talked things into existence. And I do believe that you can talk things into existence. So having said that, like my goal with Kirby is when he's in the house and we start doing some things together, hopefully. And again, I don't want to spoil everything that's going on. Nick is an optimistic guy about it. He's very upbeat about the Reds. He thinks that the future is bright, and I'm not here to disagree with him. From time to time, I'm sure that I'll have some conversations about whether or not that's really realistic or not. But I'm hopeful that Chatterbox becomes a place where you can find Reds content that will at least make you feel somewhat decent when things aren't going great. And I do think that Reds Fest, unfortunately I didn't be able to get down there, but I think that it's a start, hopefully, to get the fandom or the fan base a little bit excited. Don't know if it did that, but I'm hopeful that we can try to turn the page here in the city and start to think about the positive things that could happen. Thoughts?
All right. I got no thoughts. I've shared my thoughts many times on the Reds, and I mean I just desperately wish for them to be better and to put a winning performance.
I think
on.
we all do. Like
I know.
Listen, this town, like it or not, I jokingly say it's a football town, and I still somewhat believe it's a football town. But at the same time, everyone knows what it's like in this city when the Reds are good, and it is completely different. It is fun. It's something to look forward to every night. There's something to be said about baseball, about having games every day. Yes, it's a long season. Yes, it can be boring at times. But in the middle of the summer, when you're in a pennant race, that is electric, man. Like, that is fun. And we want nothing more in Cincinnati than just that. I don't even think Cincinnati fans, quite frankly, are asking for world championships. Would we like one? Sure. But, like, I would be sitting here, we would all be naive to sit here and think that, like, that should be the ultimate goal for this franchise year in and year out. That's not the case. Like, the case, quite frankly, is to be relevant. And I think we can be relevant. It's just in hopes after talking to Nick, and hopefully we can start to just, as we said, we can start to spread the positivity around here. Maybe, just maybe, we catch some lightning in a bottle with a couple of these guys, and we're good again. And if that happens, just like the whole Ryan Day and these Ohio State losers that were talking about how he needed to be fired, as soon as things go right again, guess what? Everybody will be right back on that bandwagon. And I'm hoping Chatterbox is one of the first people from a content perspective to start pushing the Reds hard, and hopefully Nick's a part of that.
All right.
So that's Reds Fest. Glad to see that Nick is in the chat.
Before we finish off with the wheel lunch here, also Not Too Picky will be back on Thursday. I got some stuff I got to do right now. Not Too Picky's back on Thursday with Reed, and we're going to talk about your casino experience from last Friday. I want to digest that with Reed the other day. But before we sign off here, I'm willing to admit something.
Okay.
When Tom opened the show and was talking about UC and Louisville playing in the Wasabi Bowl, I thought he was doing a shtick. It's actually the Wasabi Bowl. Yeah. I thought he was like making fun that they were playing in a no-name bowl. And so that's why I was sitting here laughing so hard, and I just looked it up. It is actually the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. How long has that been a thing? I've never heard of that.
I think these bowls are relatively – finding sponsors for these bowls I think is becoming more and more difficult because the interest in these bowls are becoming less and less. So I think it's like you're not going to have a Tostitos Fiesta Bowl type situation anymore. I think what you're going to have is like, I think you're going to have like 1 year it's called this, the next year it's called that.
The Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
But the beautiful thing about these advertisements, like or these bowl things, there's like people do like talk about it, like you right now. It's like, but I don't know who.
I mean, what is wasabi?
You don't know what wasabi is?
Oh, I know what the food is, but is
right. That was the point I was
they're
getting
not just
at.
it's not the cheeseburger bowl. Like they're not just like generically promoting a food. Like it's got to be a company. It's got to be something.
I know that's the part where I'm lost because it's like you can't just call it the like you said, you can't call it the cheese bowl when we don't know what kind of cheese it actually is.
Yeah,
is it
like
Kraft. Is it who it is? It?
All right, wasabi. Wasabi is. I'm on the wasabi.com website right now.
Is it even about the
Is
food?
it a financial company? Technology solutions?
I don't know.
Cloud-based technology solutions?
It's not even
maybe?
about the food.
It's not even the food.
Wasabi is this is not a food company.
All right. Well, that's fine. No free ads, Paul.
True. Good point.
No free ads. Let's just leave it at that. You can look it up yourself.
Rebound
if you wanna know
rundown,
what the
willing to be
wasabi
bought.
bowl's in. All right, guys. I got two things. One, we got to figure out where we're going. That's all good and well. The second thing is this. I was thinking about this over the weekend. We all deserve second chances. We all, to a certain extent, need somebody to guide you when you make mistakes in life.
Yeah.
And what I did on Friday, Paul doesn't know this. What I did on Friday was I said, you know what? I got to be the adult. I got to be the leader. Some might say leader of men. I'm not sure if there's enough men around here.
Leader of some
for me to
men.
be called that. But what I did do was I said, you know what? It's the holiday season. And Paul, you made it very clear that you wanted to be in, but you had a situation where it was a money situation.
Yeah.
It was more money situation than actually anything. If you were I guess at the end of the day, if you were in a situation where you had an incredible amount of discretionary income, you were saying yes.
If I had been on that first company raised parlay, that would have been an auto yes. But with Taylor Swift, Christmas, sports gambling being legal in 3 weeks, and an anniversary all within a 30-day span, potentially being net negative.
Paul, does your girl watch this show at all?
No, she's teaching the youth of America right now.
Okay.
Unless she's got it on at a break.
Well, I was even thinking on the way over there, I said, you know what, Paul, he might be saving money for a nice date. He might be saving money for Christmas presents. He might be saving money for a ring.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I'm not trying to just kill this kid. Because I knew what was going to happen, folks. I knew as I was driving over to Indiana, which I did. It took me about 20 minutes to get across the border, sitting in the middle of a cornfield, 2 bars of reception, trying to put this bed
Trust me, I've done it many times. Fireworks stand, first exit over the Indiana border. It's been my home for the last 3 years.
So I drove across the border, and I knew what was going on. And I thought, all I got to do is just put an extra $300, extra $250 on this. Now, the only thing, Paul, is this. We got to figure out, one, if you can go just based off the time frame.
Yeah, that's true.
The second thing we got to figure out is what kind of punishment you have to do while you go on this trip. If you go on this trip and you're able to go. Now, it's an 8-hour drive.
I will say a couple of things. I'd say it was 80% the money and the risk, and like 20% not knowing 3 months ahead of time going into the first week of March with basketball and everything, what was going on if I could go.
Okay.
That was part of it. Because if
All
it
right.
was the big Monday Texas game, I'll be honest, I probably would have been in. But the risk reward of not
Right.
being 100% sure 3 months out that I could get to that was part of it. But there also, like, maybe we get a little lucky here in a few weeks and we make something happen. I don't know. Once we get rolling, I don't know. We'll see. But you're right. Yeah. If it does come down to it, where that game's on a Tuesday, I think.
Not sure. We're going to talk about that after the show. We'll talk about that at lunch. We gotta sure up the details of this whole entire trip, the plan, because I want to do this. I really do think this. One, Tom's going to be invited. The reason that he wasn't a part of the bet was because he wasn't sitting here. The second thing is that anybody, and I mean this genuinely, anyone from the chat, anyone that watches our show, they're invited to come. We obviously can't pay the bills, but we can definitely share, like, the hotel we're going to stay at, which just so happens to probably be a casino.
Nice.
And the game we're going to, if you want to try to get tickets to that same game. It's not like, we can't
meet up or
mingle and just, be a part of the thing. Maybe we go out to eat at one place, at a specific place one night, and we can make it a thing. But my point to the whole thing is this. You enjoy college basketball way too much, Paul, to pass on something like this. I know that there are things, because my wife said something to me yesterday that it didn't hurt my heart, but it made me, it humbled me. Because I said, I can't believe Paul turned that down. He's like, and I was like, I said out loud, I'm going to be honest, I said, it's only $300. And my wife looked at me and said, you must have forgotten where you came from, which is very, 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 very big of that's a huge dig in my side, because the truth is that there was a lot of times when my wife was working at Applebee's, folks, and I didn't have a damn dollar to my name. And if someone would have offered me a chance to go on a trip and said I had to pay $300 to go on it, I would have been like, I can't do it, regardless of whether or not I want to do it or not. So we got to find out what your job duty is on this. We're going to vlog the whole entire thing. We're going to turn this whole thing into a content piece. So we're vlogging the whole thing, right?
All right.
Get people's genuine reactions. Because, I'm not joking when I say this, it is the best place, in my opinion. Okay, I haven't been to Cameron, but I did put the whole bit with Steve SVP, which I'm sure you've seen on Twitter. When Scott Van Pelt says it's the best place to watch a basketball game, then it's something.
Yeah.
So, we're going to figure all that out. But we need to figure out where we're going to go to lunch. I have a big recommendation.
Throw all 8 up on there, because this calzone is driving me nuts that Brandon ate. Go ahead.
I got a big recommendation. Ready for it?
Okay.
If it hits, then I say we can all go. The company will pay for the lunch.
Oh.
And it is going to be hibachi.
Just a hibachi grill.
Wasabi.
I know which one, but there's no point in
wasabi.
Typing out the whole thing, which is exactly why it's on the list.
Okay.
Throw the wheel up there.
Just those two things?
No. Throw the wheel up there. Throw the wheel up there, and we'll start giving you some names. I just don't want people staring at my face while we go through these names. All right, we got a bunch of them. Sir Boy Wonder throws.
Sir Boy Wonder really wants us to go to Jeff
man.
Ruby's. Eventually, we're going to have to at least run the risk and throw it on the wheel. Kind of like the no lunch. What if we put Jeff Ruby's and no lunch on the list at the same time? Don't do that today. No, I could use a burrito. Put Chipotle on there. I haven't eaten Chipotle in a long time. I know it's not the hot topic, but I could use it.
Totally spelled it, I think. Oh, wow.
You got to pick one. You haven't picked one yet. I picked 2. See, White Castle is either really good or really bad.
Yeah. I love how there's just random names in here.
Yeah.
Gabriel.
Fatima.
Diva.
I need a burger place.
Burger place?
Culver's.
What's the closest?
But I love Wendy's, and you guys
What's the
hate
closest
Wendy's.
Five Guys?
No, I can't. Peanuts. Well, you guys could go. I'll go to Chipotle if you guys do that. Go ahead. Throw Five Guys on there.
No. I think Five Guys is a pretty far trip, so.
Okay. Throw Culver's on there.
Culver's, yeah. Culver's.
I could smack a Culver's burger right now.
Is Panda up yet, or is it still
no chance?
I think Panda's going to be done.
No chance.
At the turn of the century.
No chance. That's Y2K. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
All right. Whatever you got's good. What do we got?
I think we only got like 4.
Yeah, we only got like 4 or 5
That's
things,
fine.
So I got
Brandon, you've already ate. He's watching Scott Satterfield.
Also, we're not adding them in at the end either. We're just going to let it rip and see if it...
them... Oh, you can't make them the same color. All right, just forget it. Go, spin it.
All right, here we go.
Oh, tough on round 1. Wasabi, out.
Hibachi's out already?
Yeah, that was number 1.
Damn, man.
All right.
Culver's is number 2 for me.
Yeah, get all 8 up out of here.
All 8 up. All right, this is a win-win. You're not a Chipotle guy, though, aren't you? All right, we got to add a couple more.
Are we going to do... I almost say like we spin it 3 times and see which one happens.
Spin it 3 times?
I want to see if it's random or not. You guys keep saying it lands automatically on the other side. Like let's put that theory to the test.
All right.
So which one was this on?
See, it didn't land on the other side.
Oh,
that
it got
time.
the same one there.
Maybe this thing is random. You guys are just giving it some
Maybe
bad
it was just
mojo.
maybe it was so consistently. Yeah. All right.
So
That's the second one.
This is the second one.
And that's really close. All right, this is beautiful. Last one right here. Whatever it lands on.
Whatever it lands on is where we're going.
This is it. And Culver's.
No.
Culver's.
Yeah.
Sit. Sit.
Sit.
Ball. Sit ball.
Nice.
All right. So it is
That's
random.
a win.
It is random.
Yeah.
That's a win.
All right. Good stuff, everybody.
All right, chat. Man, I'll tell you what. I can't keep telling you guys. We appreciate you guys sticking around. I know Tom's the big time guy. You know, he's the one that everyone comes for, and everybody wants to see what Tom has to say. But we have a good amount of people that stick around after Tom's show and listen to us talk about who knows what. And from time to time, I got to be honest with you. I'll tell you what. I've been telling you exactly what's going to happen. So, I mean, if you want me to not spoil the college football playoff, I won't. I won't do that. I can if you want me to, though. I can if you want me to.
No, save it for Wednesday. Do it with Reed.
Yeah,
do it with Reed.
I will talk about the college football playoff as we get closer.
Can we all just agree, though? Can we all just agree?
Maybe. I don't know.
That we didn't have to deal with Ohio State and Michigan for a month? That was a good thing?
Yeah. That was a good thing.
That even if we get it now, it's only a week. Otherwise, we'd have done this for 3 straight weeks and circled the same wagons for 3 straight weeks. And I had to watch those stupid red X's on the screen because nobody can put
I got to
an
tell
M
you.
anywhere.
I got to tell you. I know. I see exactly what's going down in the college football playoff, and it's something.
What?
What's something, boys? Got to be honest. When that line came out, Georgia 6.5. My heart hurt bad.
Your heart sank a little bit.
I audibly gasped. I hope I'm wrong about the Buckeyes. The problem is I rarely am wrong when I see these things.
Oh, no.
The beautiful thing is that I put $125 on the Buckeyes to win it all. So I'm going to win like $1,200. I would literally burn $1,200 right now in front of everybody if I don't have to listen and hear Tom and the rest of these clowns talk about Ohio State football for the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months until they do it again. But the truth is that might be what happens.
Sir boy. It's okay, sir boy. Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see how it all goes. Love you, everybody.
Right,
we're going to go get some food. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you for the record, too. 117 is what I see right here on my screen.
Yeah, biggest show today.
Biggest show today.
Biggest show we've ever done today.
Thank you.
We'll do it again tomorrow. See you, everybody. Cheers.